Chapter 1069. Chu Qingyan shivered slightly when she met the big ice cube's unusual gaze. Why did she feel that big ice was a bit dangerous? The person in the distance walked towards her slowly with a strong presence that couldn't be ignored. In the quiet room, there was only the sound of clothes rubbing against each other. She grabbed the corner of the blanket and wanted to retreat, but her pride didn't allow her to retreat. He was already in front of her. He leaned over and leaned his forehead against hers. Their noses were touching, and their lips were only inches away. They could touch if they turned around. There was almost no distance between them, so she couldn't help but open her eyes wide. "Are you ready?" A voice that was close to a whisper rang in her ears. She rarely heard him speak so softly, and it felt like her ears were about to get pregnant. She wanted to nod, but she suddenly realized something when she moved her neck. "Ready for what?" Xiao Su smiled, seeing how confused she was. "I'll help you recall what happened last night." Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and asked, "Do you really want to?" "I don't care. I'm just worried that you'll overthink things in the future. I don't want to see you fuming at me every day. I'm clearly the victim." He reached out to tuck her hair behind her ear and chuckled innocently. "Humph, who's afraid? Come on." He was the victim. She didn't want to be accused by him for no reason in the future. Thus, Chu Qingyan couldn't stand his provocation and pretended to be fearless. She didn't see the glint in his eyes when she said that, so she walked into his provocation step by step. She didn't know what Big Ice wanted to do at all. She subconsciously felt that what happened next might be beyond her imagination, but the arrow was already on the bow and had to be released. Xiao Su leaned close to her. She couldn't stand the pressure and slowly leaned back, but in the end, her arms slipped and she fell into the blanket. When she opened her eyes, he placed his hands on either side of her and looked at her with bright eyes. "Do you still remember this position?" he said. "Huh? You pulled me onto the bed last night," Xiao Su explained patiently. Chu Qingyan's eyes widened. However, Xiao Su didn't give her time to recall. He lowered his head and kissed her lips, just like how she had described it last night. Xiao Su didn't forget to ask her, "Do you still remember this?" Her brain was about to short-circuit from his teasing, and she couldn't hear what he said at all. Their positions had switched, and he was lying on the bed while she was straddling him. Although she was on top of him, she was still in a daze. She couldn't believe that she would force herself on him like the ice block had said and done. Because she didn't believe it, she decided to block out the scene in front of her and recall what had happened last night. However, before she could think about it, a pair of hands had already appeared on her back. His presence made her tremble all over, and she didn't dare to lower her head to look at the person below. Big Ice Cube, last night did I really do so many different things?" She was too embarrassed to speak, but Xiao Su could see her hesitation and shyness from her words and expression. He felt that it was about time to stop, but when he thought about how the little fellow had ignored his advice to drink, he decided that he had to teach her a lesson this time so that she would remember it. Otherwise, what would she do if he wasn't by her side? "Do you still remember last night when you said that you could take off your clothes now?" He touched her face with one hand and imitated her tone, enunciating each word. Boom! A stream of heat surged into her head, and then it exploded like a flower. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. Suddenly, an image appeared in her blank mind. The main characters were her and Big Ice Cube. She hugged his shoulder, her breath was like orchids, and her eyes were like silk. "Big Ice Cube, don't worry. I only like you. Then, shouldn't we get down to business? So, can you take off your clothes now?" She couldn't believe that the person hugging Big Ice Cube was her. But that nose, eyes, mouth, clothes, and appearance, if it wasn't her, who else could it be? Then immediately after, other scenes flooded in. But at this moment, the world was spinning, and she had already fallen back onto the bed. She was completely suppressed by him and couldn't move. She timidly pursed her lips, looked at the person in front of her, and made a final struggle. Big ice cube, that can't be true, right? He could tell that she had recalled what happened last night, but Xiaosu felt that it was far from enough. What do you think? He reached out to take off the mask on his face, met her bright eyes, and said faintly. She swallowed her saliva, then seemed to have thought of something and gained some confidence. She reached out to grab his collar and harumphed. But in the end, you ate me, and the one who suffered is still me. You can't deny this. Hearing her words, Xiaosu had a strange expression on his face. You really think so? She felt that Big Ice Cube's tone was a bit off, but she still nodded firmly. Isn't it? When I woke up this morning, my body, she suddenly felt embarrassed to say it out loud. Xiaosu sighed softly. Looks like we still have to continue. What? Chu Qingyan was confused. Xiaosu narrowed his eyes and looked at her fixedly. Don't you want to know the final answer? I'll give it to you. Chu Qingyan wanted to say something, but he lowered his head and kissed her. Her slightly opened lips made it easier for him to enter. The storm-like kiss caused their bodies to gradually heat up. Xiaosu's long arms wrapped around her, and they rolled under the blanket. Darkness instantly surrounded the two of them. After taking a deep breath, they calmed down and could only see each other's bright black eyes. In the darkness, because they couldn't see clearly, their senses were even more sensitive. She felt his hand move to her lower abdomen, and with a slight tremble, her clothes were all torn. She felt a chill all over and couldn't help but want to hug herself tightly. But someone was faster than her. He lowered his head, and his lips, tongue, and hands were soft and nimble as he teased her. Chu Qingyan was already paralyzed by his series of actions. Apart from panting and moaning, her rationality was slowly being devoured. And everything that happened last night kept replaying in her mind. It turned out that she was really drunk at the beginning and kept pestering Big Ice Cube. In the end, he had no choice but to be teased by her and take the initiative. Feeling the change in the little one under him, Xiaosu supported his upper body with one hand and caressed her face with the other. His voice was hoarse and low. Will you still drink in the future? The last sentence made her body go limp. She looked at him with her big eyes, and there was innocence and confusion in her moist eyes. Silence spoke louder than words, and inaction spoke louder than action. This made Xiaosu's eyes darken. Chapter 1070. Chu Qingyan did not notice his strangeness as she pulled her lips in a wronged manner. How could I know that I wouldn't be like myself after drinking? You're also in the wrong. You clearly knew that I would be like this, but you didn't tell me. You only told me not to drink and your attitude was so firm. According to my personality, I would secretly do it when you weren't around. It's a good thing that it didn't turn into a big mistake, otherwise what if I made you wear a green hat? Xiaosu realized that he was in the wrong for not telling the truth, but looking at her like this, she didn't seem to realize it. Especially the last sentence, it aroused his instincts. He reached out to pinch her face as he spoke in a dangerous tone. It looks like I need to teach you a lesson so you'll remember. Before Chu Qingyan could react, the person above had already covered her. She wanted to say something, but it was already too late. In the following time, no matter how she acted like a spoiled child, or even trembled and cried for mercy, his heart did not soften. The gold and silver pattern on the brocade quilt moved with the night light. It shined with a faint light and emitted a charming light in the dark night. The candlelight moved without any wind as it flickered in the room and occasionally made a poochie sound. The curtain that was lowered kept swaying. Through the light of the candlelight, one could see the moving quilt inside. Even if they couldn't see the scene inside, they could imagine how intense it was inside. Time slowly passed under the flickering candlelight. Slowly, the brocade quilt followed the curve and slowly slid down. It revealed a strong man's body as well as a sweaty body covered under it. Sweat drenched each other's cheeks and the black hair stuck to her face and forehead. It was like she had just been fished out of the water. Other than the long hair covering her body, all her clothes were gone. Xiaosu struggled to move his gaze away and only looked at her face. And she was being teased by him to the point of sobbing. Be good, don't cry. It's also hard for me to hold it in. He reached out to help her wipe her tears as his voice carried a trace of tenderness. Chu Qingyan glanced at his well-dressed appearance, while her hair was barely covering her body. She felt even more wronged and unfair. What right did she have to be in such a sorry state? She was even picked by him until she couldn't get up or down. He, on the other hand, was still well-dressed. He couldn't help but take her hand and give it a kiss. So I've raised a wolf cub. He didn't care about the pain in his hand at all as he chuckled and teased. Chu Qingyan flung his hand away and snorted, so we stopped here last night. Yes. Xiaosu did not hide it. Chu Qingyan exploded when she heard that. What's the difference between eating and not eating? You all. She couldn't say it out loud. He had touched what he shouldn't have touched, kissed what he shouldn't have kissed, and touched what he shouldn't have. What else did he want? Based on the situation last night, if I didn't put you down, you would have let me go, His hand was still on her waist, and as he spoke, he was rubbing it subconsciously. She suddenly went limp, and her eyes were watery, making Xiaosu's breath catch. He couldn't help but take a deep breath and lay down beside her. He was afraid that if he couldn't control himself later, his restraint last night and tonight would be in vain. Chu Qingyan knew that she was in the wrong. After all, she was the one who took the initiative first. Later on, she forgot after she sobered up, and that was why the big ice cube repeated last night. But no matter what, she was dissatisfied with their current situation, especially the evil fire that had been stirred up in her. She had nowhere to vent it now, and she wasn't stupid. She could feel that the big ice cube was enduring a lot of pain. She rolled her eyes and decided to give up her modesty for once when she was sober. Therefore, when Xiaosu was caught off guard, she flipped over and pressed herself against him. While he was surprised, she slowly straightened her back. Her hair fell down and covered her body. However, such a beautiful scene made people's hearts ripple with excitement. Ian, what are you doing? He thought that after this incident, she would be too shy to face anyone, but he didn't expect her to be so bold. It was as if she was looking at the drunkard last night. Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and glared at him. Why are you dressed properly, and I'm not? Although I was the one who took the initiative last night, can you say that you didn't take advantage of me in the end? Xiaosu raised his eyebrows. What the little fellow said made sense. Inadvertently, his gaze fell on her fair and rosy skin, and he couldn't help but look away. After she finished speaking, she didn't care about his reaction. She reached out and began to pull off his belt and clothes. Xiaosu reached out to stop her, but she fiercely glared at him. In the end, he could only give up and let her go up and down until she didn't leave anything behind. In the end, the two of them were naked. She found that it wasn't that he didn't have any reaction, and it could be said that it was very strong. She was ashamed and depressed. Since we're already here, how can you still hold back? Xiaosu didn't want to be seen by her. At first, he was a bit embarrassed, but when he heard her words, he couldn't help but sigh. With the person I love in front of me, do you think I don't want to take advantage of her? But Ian, I cherish you, so I don't want to take you at this time. Do you understand? Hearing his words, her eyes were slightly moist, and her heart was incomparably moved. It's okay, I don't care about those empty formalities. I'm willing to give myself to you. When she said this, she didn't dare to look at him, but she gathered a lot of courage. To be able to make a girl say something like this, it was enough to see how much she cared about the person in front of her. Several complicated emotions flashed through Xiaosu's eyes. Shock, joy, moved, and finally, love. He moved his lips, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He reached out his long arm, pressed her down on the bed, and kissed her heavily. Their skin rubbed against each other, and the temperature suddenly rose. It felt like two balls of fire, constantly fusing together. But in the end, he stopped. He hugged her and panted heavily, trying to calm down the passion at this time. Chu Qingyan's eyes were half closed. Her body was wet, but she also felt uncomfortable. Ian, let's wait a bit more. I don't want you to be hurt. His voice was low, but his tone was firm. She knew that he had his own considerations. Even if it was hard for him to hold back, he didn't want to take her. To her, this kind of cherishing, wasn't it a strong love for her? She reached out and wrapped her arms around him, nodding with her eyes closed. Xiao Su's lips held a smile, but his body was so stiff that he couldn't help but frown. It seemed like in the end, he was the one who reaped what he sowed. She also felt his body stiffen, so she raised her head and looked at him timidly. Then what are you going to do now? You can help me. He lowered his head and kissed the corner of her eye, his hot breath pouring into her ear. Her face instantly heated up. How can I help you? She stuttered. He didn't say anything, but pulled her hand down. Her face and ears instantly turned red, like a crayfish that had just been taken out of a steamer. Chapter 1071. Clouds in the hair, golden hair ornaments, hibiscus canopy warmth spent the spring night. The candlelight burned out, and the first rays of dawn appeared. The dim yellow light was slowly replaced by white light. But the windows were tightly shut, and the bed under the canopy was still dark. The bed shook violently, and after a low growl, it finally quieted down. For the entire night, she felt as if her hand was about to break. Her entire body was limp on the bed, and she didn't even want to move. Sweat rolled down from her forehead, but Xiao Su didn't care. He reached out to touch her face, and pulled her into his arms with satisfaction. The summer was hot, and the ice in the room had mostly melted since no one came in to change it. The temperature had risen quite a bit, and the two of them were sticky and sweaty from the exercise just now. Hearing the uncomfortable moans of the person in his arms, Xiao Su sat up, carried her, and walked to the cubicle. At this time, Chu Qingyan was in a half-awake, half-asleep state. She didn't have the energy to ask him, so she let him go. There was a bathtub filled with clean water inside, and Xiao Su carefully put her in. The cold water wrapped around her body, and Chu Qingyan sighed comfortably. She was a little more awake, and although she knew what he was doing, she didn't have the energy to say anything to him. Xiao Su scooped up the water and carefully helped her wash. This was the first time that he had personally served her, and it was also the first time that she had been so obedient. He couldn't help but lighten his strength. By the time he had dried her and carried her again, she was already sound asleep. He put her back on the bed, covered her with the blanket, and touched her head. He kissed her lightly, then turned and returned to the cubicle. He used the water to do a simple wash, put on a set of clothes, and returned to the bed. Perhaps it was because she felt his presence suddenly disappear beside her, but she didn't sleep well. It wasn't until he lay down beside her again that she rolled into his embrace. She hugged him with both hands and pressed herself against him before she fell asleep peacefully. Xiao Su felt that she relied on him wholeheartedly, and his heart was warm. He pressed her head into his arms, closed his eyes, and felt at ease. Soon, he fell asleep. In the quiet night, the two of them slept peacefully in each other's arms. After a good night's sleep, when Chu Qingyan opened her eyes, it was already bright outside. She could clearly see the appearance of the person in front of her. He had sharp and stylish eyebrows, long and dense black eyelashes, a handsome nose, and thin pink lips. His skin was fair, and he looked harmless in his sleep, with a rare hint of childishness. Chu Qingyan was entranced. She couldn't help but reach out and trace his eyebrows. She even naughtily pulled his cheeks. It felt really good. It was comparable to a woman's. Suddenly, she saw his eyelids move. She immediately took back her hand and closed her eyes. She tilted her head and pretended to sleep. When she closed her eyes, Xiao Su opened his eyes. Seeing her tightly closed eyes, he thought that she didn't know that she was pretending to sleep. His heart moved and he slightly curled his lips. He tilted his head and sucked on her lips, teasing her as he slowly sucked the air out of her body. She felt a chill on her lips, but she didn't dare open her eyes. However, she quickly felt that something was strange. He was attacking her, making it hard for her to breathe. In the end, she couldn't hold it in and could only struggle to hit his chest. Only then did Xiao Su let her go as he gave a low laugh. He really was taking advantage of her and still acting innocent. Chu Qingyan wiped her lips and took in large mouthfuls of fresh air. She glared at him. This was too much. But leaning against his chest, hearing the pleasant laughter that came from inside him, her face turned red. Forget it, she was the one who teased him first, so she wouldn't argue with him. Don't you need to go to court today? At this moment, the two of them were hugging each other. The intimate contact and the warm breath made her involuntarily recall everything that they did last night. Her face quickly turned red. She felt that if she didn't find a topic to divert her attention, she would probably become a cooked crayfish again. I'm staying at home to accompany my wife. With last night's intimate progress, Xiao Su no longer put on airs and said intimately. Hearing his words, she felt a little shy and embarrassed, but she also felt happy. Her hands held onto his clothes as her smile was a little sweet. Xiao Su's gaze had not left her body since he woke up. At this moment, her expression did not escape his eyes. This kind of shy person was like a feather that tickled his heart. He couldn't help but hug her again. He kissed and touched her until her face was so red that water could be squeezed out. Only then did he reluctantly let her go. Yesterday, Imperial Father summoned me to the palace because third brother had already received the Southern Sung envoy. Imperial Father hoped that I could quickly arrange the military forces inside and outside the city to guard against any possible changes. He knew that the little girl's sudden change in mood towards him yesterday was probably because she couldn't see him when she woke up. She thought that he didn't want to admit it, so he explained. Chu Qingyan leaned on his shoulder. Her eyes were like water. When she heard him say this, her eyes lit up. It seems that His Majesty is still wary of Southern Sung's peace negotiations. He doesn't trust Southern Sung that much. Xiao Su stroked her long hair. Hearing this, he chuckled. Imperial Father is a smart person. He has a line of defense in his heart when it comes to people and matters. He doesn't even trust the people closest to him, let alone an enemy country that he once invaded. Then why didn't he let you annihilate them in one fell swoop and take Southern Sung into your own territory? Wouldn't that be a worry-free situation? Although she didn't approve of war, Chu Qingyan still had some doubts after analyzing the Sichuan Emperor's actions. Perhaps his fear of me is far greater than the threat of Southern Sung. When Xiao Su said this, the corners of his mouth curled up in a self-deprecating manner. When Chu Qingyan heard this, her heart ached. She couldn't help but reach out and pat his back as if she was coaxing a child. Don't feel bad. He has eyes but can't see gold and jade. Let's not bicker with him. When Xiao Su heard this, he smiled. The dark clouds in his heart couldn't help but disperse because of her words. I plan to wait until the matter with the Southern Sung envoy is settled. Then, I'll ask Imperial Father for a decree to consummate the marriage. What do you think? If he didn't let her become his legitimate wife, he was afraid that in the coming days, just looking at her and not being able to eat her would be enough to torture him. However, the most important thing was that the little fellow was the person he wanted to protect the most in this lifetime. He didn't want any unforeseen changes to their marriage in the coming days. Once the two of them were married, he would be able to set his heart at ease. When Chu Qingyan heard this, she couldn't help but bury her head in his chest. In a muffled voice, she said, I'll listen to you. When she was young in the modern era, she had once imagined how her future husband would propose in a romantic manner before she would agree. Now, she didn't think that the proposal, the scene of fresh flowers, a diamond ring, and so on were that important. As long as she was sure that this person was the one who would hold her hand for the rest of her life, she wouldn't care about anything else. If she liked him, then she would be together. If she loved him, then she would be together for the rest of her life. Chapter 1072. The reply that came from his embrace made Xiaosu unable to help but raise the corner of his mouth. Ever since he was young, he had never really wanted to have anyone or anything, and he had never felt that having something he liked would make him feel an indescribable happiness. Now, just a simple nod and reply made his heart swell, as if something was about to overflow. Perhaps, this was the feeling of happiness. Aren't you afraid that someone will come in and find out that you're in my room? After speaking, she no longer hesitated and wriggled out of his embrace as she asked nervously. Only then did she remember that they were basically disheveled right now. If Jasper and the rest came in, it would be awkward. Xiaosu lightly tapped her nose. Don't you think that it's a bit late to worry about this problem? Ah. She didn't understand. As long as you don't go out today, no one will come in and disturb you. Xiaosu liked to see her confused look, so he didn't keep her in suspense. Before I came in last night, I already gave the order, so you can sleep as long as you want today. Chu Qingyan blinked, recalling the scene of him climbing through the window last night. So it was to cover up, so no one would know that he was in her room. It was no wonder that Xining and Jasper didn't wake her up even though it was already so late. So he had already taken care of it early in the morning, no wonder he was so fearless. The big ice cube was too sneaky. She reached out and pinched his waist to punish him. Xiaosu reached out to grab her wrist and said in a low voice, "It's early in the morning. If you move around again, I can't guarantee what I will do." When these words came out, Chu Qingyan immediately settled down. Her hands were still sore and she didn't want to suffer anymore, so she obediently laid in his embrace. Once it was quiet, she couldn't help but yawn. Xiaosu once again pulled her into his embrace, patted her back and coaxed softly, "Sleep for a while more. I'll wake you up for lunch." They slept too late last night, so both of them were tired. She nodded and forgot what she wanted to say. She nestled in his embrace and slowly fell asleep. There was one thing he didn't tell the little fellow. If a marquis wanted to get married in the capital, the bride must be tested for her chastity by a nanny sent by the palace. If he wanted to be together with the little fellow as soon as possible, this procedure was indispensable. That was why he repeatedly chose to restrain himself at the last minute. He didn't want the little fellow to bear those rumors that she shouldn't have. He endured it for a while to avoid future worries. He was willing to give the little fellow the respect and understanding she deserved. He had only met one person in his life, and he was willing to give everything to cherish, love, and pamper her. Xiaosu patted her back, looked at her sweet face, and lightly pecked her pink lips. Then, he closed his eyes and went back to sleep. Outside, the sun was scorching hot. Inside the room, it was dark and cool. It was good to sleep. The two people who were sleeping next to each other exuded happiness and contentment. However, in a town on the border between Sichuan and Nansang, there was a show of being chased and being chased. Search, the princess can't have run far. Rows of Nansang soldiers were searching everywhere with weapons in their hands. On a big tree, a small head peeked out. Seeing a group of soldiers coming from afar, she immediately shrunk her neck and used the dense branches and leaves to hide herself. Soon, the soldiers passed by below and didn't discover her existence. She let out a sigh of relief and prepared to spend a few days on the tree. In any case, she had brought enough rations. When they couldn't find her and left, she would be able to rest easy. Just as she hugged the tree trunk and prepared to take a nap, she suddenly felt her body go cold. Then, she heard a rustling sound. She had a bad premonition and slowly turned her head to look at the source of the sound. She exploded. Ah, a snake! She lost her head out of fear. Her hands loosened and she fell from above. It's over. Falling from such a high place, even if she wasn't paralyzed, she would have broken bones. Heavens, however, just as she was about to bear the pain of falling, she unexpectedly didn't feel any pain. Instead, she felt her body being embraced by a warm and soft embrace. Xiao Ho had just met up with the Nansang envoy group yesterday. However, the Nansang envoy group was very perfunctory with him. Until now, he hadn't sat down to talk with them. Today, he found out that the reason why they avoided him was because their princess was missing. This was a very embarrassing matter, causing them to delay time again. After knowing the reason, Xiaohou didn't care. In any case, no matter how much trouble they caused, they still had to hand over a princess. If they couldn't find her, they could just send another one over. It wasn't difficult at all. Therefore, after staying in the room for a long time, the air was stuffy. He dismissed his attendants and went out for a walk. When he walked into the small forest, he could feel an unusual aura from the tree. He wanted to go forward to check it out, but he didn't expect that when he just stood still, a person would fall on top of it. He subconsciously wanted to avoid it, but when he saw the figure of a woman, he had a plan in his heart and reached out to save her. The person in his arms had a pretty face. She was just frightened and had her eyes tightly closed. However, when he saw her dress, he was even more certain of his guess. After Pang Zhijing felt that the danger had passed, she secretly opened one of her eyes. What entered her eyes was a fluffy fox fur coat. She couldn't help but feel puzzled. Why would he wear such thick clothes on such a hot day? Was he sick? When she looked up, she saw a gentle and handsome face. It was really pleasing to the eye. She sighed in her heart. However, when she saw the other party's smile that wasn't a smile, she realized her situation and couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Xiaohou was good at observing and guessing people's thoughts. When he saw her eyes flash with surprise, doubt, amazement, and finally embarrassment, he defined this woman in his heart. She was an enemy country's princess who couldn't pose a threat. "Miss, can you go down now?" Xiaohou smiled faintly and asked gently. His voice was like a spring breeze, causing Pang Zhijing's face to turn red. You let go." When she was nervous, she couldn't speak properly. She was clearly someone who wasn't afraid of anything, so how could she show her fear in front of an ancient person? Xiaohou obeyed her words and let go. However, Pang Zhijing forgot that her foot was still injured. When she landed, her entire body fell to the ground. The steamed buns, and pastries she was carrying fell to the ground with her. She looked at the round steamed buns that had rolled to the other party's boots. She felt that the sky had become darker, the world had become darker, and her face had become even hotter. In front of such a handsome man, she was in such a sorry state. It was really shameful. Why was it that in ancient times, bad luck kept happening one after another? Pang Zhijing lightly sighed and climbed up from the ground. The boots were still in her eyes. Her eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 1073. This young master, can you save this little girl? This little girl will be eternally grateful. The ancient people should have said this. Pang Zhijing widened her eyes and tried to act innocent. Xiaohou originally wanted to call for help, but hearing her words, he immediately changed his mind. "Miss, how do you want this one to help you?" After leaving the capital, the journey was quite boring. Encountering these rude and unreasonable envoys of the southern blue continent was even more boring. This princess of the southern blue continent seemed to be a little interesting, so he decided to waste some time to probe her bottom line. When Pang Zhijing heard this, a little hope ignited in her heart. She struggled to stand up. She supported herself with one leg and her other leg was injured, so she could only touch the ground. She staggered forward, wanting to get closer to him and whisper to him, but she found that when she moved forward, he was moving back. She couldn't help but tactfully stand still. Then she gathered her emotions and very quickly, she cried out tearfully. "Young master, this little girl's name is Shirhan. Because my family was poor, I was sold to a slave trader by my parents. Later on, I was severely beaten. I couldn't take it and escaped. You see, this leg was injured by them. Then, I coincidentally met the southern blue envoy who was visiting the Sichuan. On the way, they caught me and said that they wanted to serve their princess, but this princess somehow ran away. They said that they wanted to investigate my crime and kill me. I was scared, so I escaped when they weren't paying attention. Speaking up to hear, Pang Zhijing pinched her thigh and forced her eyes to turn red. She looked as pitiful as possible. She raised her head and said pitifully, "So, young master, can you save my life and take me away from here?" Her little actions did not escape Xiaoho's eyes. Moreover, he saw through her thoughts. He looked at the girl in front of him with some surprise. Looking at her standing posture, he knew that the injury on her leg was very serious. However, she was still able to analyze the pros and cons in this situation and fabricate a reason for him to take her away. It seemed that she wasn't a stupid girl. At the very least, she knew when to yield and when to stand tall. "You said that you are the princess's servant?" Xiaoho looked at her with a faint smile. Pang Zhijing nodded, but soon felt that his tone was a little strange. However, she didn't think too much about it. "Can young master extend a helping hand to me? When I'm safe, I'll definitely repay your kindness." Xiaoho chuckled, his expression unreadable. Pang Zhijing saw that he was just standing there and looking at her without replying. Her heart was beating like a drum. Could it be that this person was afraid after hearing that it was related to the Southern Blue Imperial family? "Forget it, I won't force him." Just as she was about to give up, a few men in tight clothes suddenly appeared behind the man. She was stunned. How could these people walk so silently? She didn't notice them at all. "Your Highness, Lord Tori wishes to see you," one of them said respectfully. Pang Zhijing froze when she heard the title. "Your Highness? Who are you?" Xiaoho looked at her with a smile that wasn't a smile. To be able to appear in a place heavily guarded by the Southern Blue Continent, and even enter a place with no one around, who do you think I am? She suddenly remembered that these 2 days should be the time when Sichuan Kingdom would send people to pick her up. Her maid had mentioned that the person in charge of receiving them this time was the third prince of Sichuan, Xiaoho. "You're Xiaoho?" She blurted out. "How dare you? How dare you call our Highness by his name?" The man who spoke just now stepped forward and said sternly. Xiaoho raised his hand and dismissed his subordinate. His voice was still gentle as he said, "So, do you think I'll agree to your request for help?" "Your Highness." When he called out her name, Pang Zhijing felt as if the entire sky had collapsed. She had escaped with great difficulty, but unfortunately, she had encountered the archenemy of the Southern Blue Continent. She swallowed her saliva and made a final struggle. "I don't know what you're talking about." Since you're busy, I won't disturb you any longer. The green hills will no longer flow, and the green waters will always flow." She turned around and wanted to leave. However, at this moment, a group of people heard the commotion and quickly surrounded them. When they saw Xiaoho, they immediately saluted, "This general greets your Highness, the third prince." When Xiaoho raised his hand and had them rise, the leader of the Southern Blue soldiers saw the person standing under the tree. He said in surprise, "Your Highness, so you're here. You've made this general look for you. It's over. I really can't leave this time." Pang Zhijing turned around and waved her hand at the soldier. She chuckled and said, "It's a good night with a full moon. It's suitable for a stroll. The doctor said that exercise can help with the recovery of injuries, so I came out by myself. I hope I didn't cause any trouble for you." The soldier's eyes twitched. Lord Tori was so angry that he almost wanted to punish all the guards according to military law. However, when it came to the princess, it was an understatement. Xiaoho quietly observed the conversation from the side. He was a little surprised by Pang Zhijing's attitude, but he quickly regained his calm. "I was rude just now. Please forgive me, Your Highness." He bowed slightly. Aside from Pang Zhijing, no one else knew what had just happened. The Southern Blue soldiers thought that it was Xiaoho who had helped them find the princess, saving them from Lord Tori's wrath. As such, they felt grateful towards him. Pang Zhijing was the only one who couldn't speak of the bitterness in her heart. She could only fiercely glare at him. This person actually tricked me and delayed my departure. It seems like he already knew my identity. He just didn't say anything and watched me act like a clown in front of him. This is too much. However, at this moment, she couldn't do anything to him. She could only secretly glare at him. If it wasn't for him, she would have already escaped. If she had the chance, she definitely wouldn't forgive him. Xiao Ho sensed her angry glare. However, he didn't put her in his eyes. With an indifferent expression, he said to the Southern Blue soldiers, "This prince still has matters to attend to. I'll take my leave first. Goodbye." Xiao Ho nodded at Pang Zhijing. Then, he slowly disappeared into the lush greenery. The Southern Blue soldiers couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, he was the famous prince of Sichuan country. His words and actions were elegant and gentle, making people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. Pang Zhijing, who was standing to the side, glared at his back. After he left, Pang Zhijing looked at the dried rations by her feet and felt a little regretful. These were the rations she had saved from the past few days. Unfortunately, they were all dirty. Just as she was about to withdraw her gaze and accept her fate, she saw something from the corner of her eyes. She couldn't help but turn around. She saw a dead snake lying under the tree with a leaf stuck in its head. Below it was a pool of blood. Wasn't this the snake she saw on the tree? Her whole body trembled. She couldn't help but look in the direction Xiao Ho left. When did this person make a move? Just now, it was just the two of them. Yet, they had quietly dealt with it. Too frightening. She suddenly touched her neck, imagining that the leaf had pierced her body. She suddenly shivered. Forget it. A good woman doesn't fight with a man. She decided to let him go this time and not bicker with him. Chapter 1074. When Xiao Ho returned to his courtyard, he saw two people waiting for him. One was the envoy from Southern Blue, Tori, whom he met yesterday. The other one was dressed in a blue brocade robe with a veil hat on his head. Although he couldn't see his face clearly, he was a man of about the same age as Yi Qing and had a noble air about him. Xiao Ho retracted his gaze and looked at Sir Tori. "Sir Tori, is there something important for you to visit me so late at night?" Tori was tall and strong. He stood in front of the gentle Xiao Ho and said with a strong voice, "Someone wants to see the third prince. May I have a word with you?" Faced with Tori's righteous and unfriendly tone, Xiao Ho's expression didn't change at all. "Sir Tori, please." At this time, the arrogant Tori turned around and bowed to invite the mysterious man in blue. The mysterious man entered the room first with his hands behind his back. Tori followed him eagerly. Xiao Ho's subordinate said angrily, "Your Highness, these people are too much." Xiao Ho raised his hand and chuckled, "It's okay. You wait outside. I'll see what they are up to." After entering the room, the servants served tea. Xiao Ho sat down on the main seat and glanced at Tori, who was sitting below the mysterious man. He thought of something and said calmly, "Sir Tori, you said someone wants to see me. Is it this young master in blue?" "Yes." Tori nodded proudly. At this time, the mysterious man who was sitting quietly suddenly took off his veil hat and revealed his angular face. He smiled impolitely, "Prince Yi, we've crossed paths many times. Today is the first time we meet. Nice to meet you." The man in front of him was tall and majestic. His eyes were sharp and his whole body exuded the condescending aura of a ruler. He gave Xiao Ho a warning. However, Xiao Ho remained unmoved. His features were gentle, and his expression was calm. He was like a harmless noble young master. Even though the other party did not reveal his identity, Xiao Ho had guessed his origins from the beginning. "It's my honor to be able to meet with your highness." Pang Huang frowned subtly. It turned out that this person had already seen through his identity. Prince Yi is indeed intelligent. "You know who I am at first glance. I admire you." Xiao Ho smiled. "A few days ago, I received news that the Crown Prince was secretly following the envoy team. Today, I saw Lord Tori's attitude towards you and the Crown Prince's unconcealable noble aura, so I guessed it. I'm not smart, but I'm good at observation." Xiao Ho's words were undoubtedly a gesture of sincerity. He was telling Pang Huang that his people had already grasped the movements of the Southern Heavenly Envoy group before they had arrived. Although it was uncomfortable to be monitored, Pang Huang didn't take it to heart since the other party was his partner. Since Prince Yi is being so frank, I won't beat around the bush with you anymore. This time, I came with the group of envoys to meet with you and discuss the next step of the plan. Xiao Ho paused for a moment, then said, "How did your highness know that I would be the one to receive you?" Pang Huang raised his eyebrows and looked at him. "Your Majesty, in order to show the importance of this negotiation, will choose one of the princes from the imperial family. However, the King of England, Xiao Su, is Southern Heavenly Envoy's mortal enemy. Sending him here will only put both sides in an awkward position. Second Prince Xiao Yao hasn't been involved in court affairs for many years, so the fourth prince is the best candidate. However, Prince Yi, you have been keeping a low profile for so long. It's time for you to slowly appear in the public eye. Wouldn't it be a pity if you missed such a good opportunity?" Xiao Ho didn't comment. "Although your highness isn't in Sichuan, you are able to understand our situation clearly. I admire you." It seemed that Pang Huang wasn't someone to be trifled with. However, at this moment, he also wanted to deal with smart people and get what he needed. "I can't compare to Prince Yi's forbearance and determination for more than 10 years. A person who can achieve great things must be more patient than others. You are a person who can see the big picture. Your temperament is enough for you to achieve great things in the future. Making a deal with you, I believe that it won't take long for us to achieve our goals." After speaking, Pang Huang didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Xiao Ho revealed a knowing smile. "Of course. I believe that our cooperation will be very pleasant." "Good. I want Xiao Su's life and his reputation destroyed to repay the hatred in my heart. If you need any manpower or material resources, I will fully support you." Pang Huang spoke slowly with hatred in his voice. When he thought of the hundreds of thousands of Southern Heavenly Envoy soldiers who died at the hands of Xiao Ran, his anger couldn't be quelled for a long time. "Your highness is a straightforward person. I definitely won't let you down." With Pang Huang's words, Xiao Ho felt that he had achieved the goal of this trip. His brows relaxed and a bloodthirsty light flashed in his eyes. It disappeared into the depths of his eyes. "Xiao Su is a smart person. However, if we work together, there's no need to fear that we won't be able to take him down. In the following days, I will wait and see." Pang Huang hooked his lips into a sinister smile. If Pang Huang was an unsheathed sharp sword, then Xiao Ho was a seemingly soft but ruthless whip. With the two of them working together, they would undoubtedly become a huge obstacle to Xiao Su's future. After settling the matter, Xiao Ho leaned back in his chair and said with a smile, "I heard that after the last battle, His Highness the Crown Prince suffered serious internal injuries. This king doesn't have anything to take out, but I do have some herbs that are rarely seen in the market." As he spoke, Xiao Ho clapped his hands and someone brought in a box. Xiao Ho had someone open it and said with a smile, "This is a small gift for our first meeting. I hope your highness will kindly accept it." Pang Huang didn't care at first, but when his gaze fell on the medicine box, he couldn't help but pause. "This is..." The medicine monarch fruit blossoms once every 50 years and bears fruit once every 50 years. A stalk of medicinal herb can only bear 1 or 2 fruits every 100 years. It can be said to be a sacred healing fruit. Xiao Ho calmly narrated, not bothering to claim credit. On the other hand, Pang Huang's expression was slightly excited. He had been searching for this medicine sovereign fruit for several months and couldn't find it. He didn't expect to get it from Xiao Ho. With it, he could recover more than half of his internal energy. After ordering someone to accept it, Pang Huang's initial surprise turned into astonishment. It seemed that Xiao Ho had long predicted that he would personally appear to discuss the matter of cooperation. He was indeed a hidden prince. Pang Huang wanted to say something, but a southern blue guard walked in. "Your Highness, the princess has been found." Pang Huang's expression turned cold. He finally found the stinky girl. Xiao Ho observed the change in Pang Huang's expression and had a guess in his heart. Since your highness has important matters to attend to, then I won't delay your highness any longer. Pang Huang turned to look at him with a mysterious expression. It's fine. Since Prince Yi has prepared a gift for this prince, then this prince has also prepared a gift for Prince Yi. Please come with me. Xiao Ho was puzzled, but he still agreed. Chapter 1075. Entering the courtyard, Pang Huang and Xiao Ho had yet to approach when they heard a commotion and the sound of things being smashed. Princess, His Highness the Crown Prince will be here soon. Please calm down. Otherwise, His Highness will blame you again. We servants will also be punished. Someone pleaded from inside. Princess. Have you ever seen a princess like this? Being monitored when she eats, when she goes to the toilet, and when she sleeps. She has no human rights at all. If you think being a princess is good, I'll let you be. A crisp female voice followed. Xiao Ho glanced at Pang Huang and found that his expression was very ugly. It seems that your country's princess is a straightforward person. Hearing this, Pang Huang knew that Xiao Ho was giving him a way out. He pursed his lips and strode in. Clang! A vase just happened to fall beside Pang Huang's feet. Pang Zhijing looked up and met Pang Huang's angry eyes. She shrugged. Sorry, my hand slipped. Pang Huang narrowed his eyes. The person who was afraid of him a few days ago suddenly became bold. Are you done? Pang Zhijing had enough of suppressing her temper these few days. She leaned against the bed wall, feeling like she was going to throw caution to the wind. Am I not a princess? Do I have to be controlled just by smashing things for fun? Such a shameless tone made Xiao Ho, who had just walked in, cast a glance over. Pang Zhijing also saw Xiao Ho. She snorted. Jackals of the same lair. Her voice was not soft, but it was not soft either. Everyone present heard it. The servants who served Pang Zhijing lowered their heads and lamented in their hearts. How did they meet such a master? Pang Huang looked at her coldly, but his words were directed at the servants in the room. All of you, leave. The servants were pardoned and immediately left. Only the three of them were left in the room. Pang Zhijing could not stand the silence. She pursed her lips and said unhappily, What are you doing here? I don't welcome you. After saying that, Pang Zhijing pulled the quilt and covered her whole body, looking like she was 1,000 miles away from them. Xiao Ho felt that there was no need to get involved in other people's family matters. He turned to Pang Huang and asked, Where is the gift your highness mentioned? If it's not convenient, we can talk another day. Pang Huang twitched the corner of his mouth. Prince Yi, I'm sorry. The gift I mentioned is in this room. Although she ignored them on the surface, Pang Zhijing, who was hiding under the quilt, pricked up her ears and paid attention to the movements outside. At this time, when she heard this, she couldn't help but frown. What kind of gift was hidden in her room? Xiao Ho followed Pang Huang's line of sight and saw the bulging bag on the bed. His eyes flashed with surprise. Pang Huang nodded. Originally, I wanted my sister to help you gain a foothold in the Sichuan. But I didn't expect that after she fell into the pool and woke up a few days ago, she became a different person. She forgot her martial arts and lost her past memories. She has lost her value. Plus, she has caused a lot of trouble these days. I have lost my patience with her. Pang Huang paused and continued, Now, except for her appearance, she can no longer fulfill our plan. So, seeing that Prince Yi is still single after so many years, I'd like to fulfill your wish and give my sister to you. I'm afraid that's not very good. Xiao Ho looked at the bed and said in a difficult tone. I know that the Lord is worried about the marriage. In fact, in this peace negotiation, no matter who it is, as long as the princess is here, it doesn't matter. I've already chosen a new princess from the imperial family. I can send her here in a few days. Pang Huang said disapprovingly. As soon as he finished speaking, the person on the bed lifted the quilt. Her eyes widened and she angrily rebuked, I'm the princess of a country. how can you give me away so casually? As the crown prince of a country, how can you do such a heartless thing? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the people by selling your sister for glory? Pang Huang looked at her indifferently. It seems that you have forgotten everything. Don't you remember who killed your brother? Do you think I can even kill my own brother, let alone you, my half-sister? Pang Zhijing was speechless. She thought that they didn't dare to touch her because she was the princess. Now she realized that she was just a chess piece. If they used her, they would use her. If they didn't use her, they would abandon her. Her fingers hidden in the quilt began to tremble. Coincidentally, my wolfhounds haven't eaten human flesh for a long time. Since it's the crown prince's kindness, I'll accept it. Xiao Ho smiled faintly. He didn't have the self-consciousness of disregard for human life. The two people in front of her were as cold as ice. They didn't care about human life and took it away. Pang Zhijing felt sad and scared for the first time since she came to this strange world. She clenched the quilt with both hands and gritted her teeth. Okay, I promise you. I'll be a good princess. Pang Huang wasn't surprised. His expression was still indifferent, no more running away. Pang Zhijing shook her head. Once you go to the Sichuan, you'll listen to Prince Yi's arrangements. Pang Zhijing nodded. Okay, remember what you said tonight. If I find out that you're disloyal, I guarantee that you'll suffer a fate worse than death. Pang Huang warned. Pang Zhijing pursed her lips and quietly endured this inhumane torture. Pang Huang glanced at her coldly. Then two secret guards walked in from outside the room and approached Pang Zhijing. Pang Zhijing was terrified. What are you doing? One of the guards held a bell-like chain in his hand towards her leg. She wanted to struggle but was held down by the other guard. She could only watch as they put the chain on her ankle. After the chain was put on, the two guards retreated. Pang Zhijing retracted her leg and tried to pry the chain apart. At first, no matter how she pulled, it wouldn't budge. Only the crisp sound of the bell could be heard. Pang Huang looked on coldly. This is the exquisite lock, also known as the 7 apertures exquisite lock. As long as you wear this lock, no matter where you go, you won't be able to escape from this compass. Pang Zhijing turned around and saw a palm-sized object in his hand. There was a pointer on it, and it was pointing towards her position. Could it be a tracker? You're so despicable. She squeezed these words out from between her teeth. Pang Huang chuckled. How can I achieve great things if I'm not despicable? As long as you don't play any tricks and obediently complete the task at the Sichuan, I might be happy and unlock your exquisite lock. Pang Zhijing kicked the quilt angrily, as if she was venting her anger on Pang Huang. Pang Huang ignored her. He turned around and handed the compass and a bunch of keys to Xiao Ho, who had been watching from the side. Then I'll give these 7 keys and the compass to Prince Yi. I hope you can take good care of them. If my sister runs away again, you don't have to worry about it. Xiao Ho saw Pang Zhijing's eager look as she stared at the keys. He smiled and took them. The 7 apertures exquisite lock had 7 keyholes. 7 keys were needed to open it. Xiao Ho played with the keys and followed Pang Huang out, leaving Pang Zhijing venting her anger on the bed with her injured leg. In the end, Pang Zhijing leaned against the bed wall and closed her eyes with a bitter smile. She was so unlucky. However, she definitely won't give up her freedom. Xiao Ho, just you wait and see. Chapter 1076. Walking out of the room, Pang Huang turned to face Xiao Ho. After this incident, This Highness has discovered that you are smarter than I thought. Facing the other party's undisguised praise, Xiao Ho raised his eyebrows and smiled. Your Highness is too kind. I will return home tonight. My sister and the following matters will be left to you. Pang Huang thought for a moment. Now that he had obtained the medicine sovereign fruit, he must return as soon as possible to hand it over to the imperial physician and have them refine the medicine to treat his injuries. Your Highness, please rest assured. Xiao Ho slightly bowed. Pang Huang did not say anything else and turned to leave with his people. Watching Pang Huang disappear into the darkness, Xiaohou slowly walked back to his courtyard. At this time, the subordinate following behind Xiaohou asked in confusion, "Master, what did Prince of Nansang mean by his words just now?" Xiaohou explained, "Just now, he did not really intend to send another princess over. This is not practical and cannot be carried out. He only wanted to scare the southern Song princess, but I saw through his intentions and cooperated with him to put on a show for the southern Song princess to see, forcing her to submit. So that's how it is." But in this subordinate's opinion, since this princess has already forgotten everything, why is she still staying? The subordinate continued to ask. Although this princess's behavior is strange, it is not without value. She is very clever, otherwise she would not have been able to escape from under their eyes several times in a row. Keeping such a person by my side may play a vital role. Xiaohou played with the key in his hand and smiled coldly. The days passed and a new day came. Pang Zhijing woke up and knew that the cold-blooded crown prince was no longer with the group. She felt like the monkey was king when the tiger was not at home. She looked at the silver bell chain on her ankle. If she did not know its use, it would have looked quite beautiful. She reached out and touched one of the bells, letting out a crisp and moving sound. Unfortunately, it was used to restrict her personal freedom. She rolled her eyes and called out loudly, "Servants." As soon as the words fell, 2 servant girls ran in from outside. "Princess, what's the matter?" Because of her escape during this period, the maidservant was always vigilant. Pang Zhijing found that the 2 servant girls in front of her were looking at her very nervously. It seemed that her performance during this period of time had been deeply ingrained in their hearts. If she wanted to escape, she had to behave for a period of time to lower their guard. "It's nothing. I'm hungry. Let's get something to eat," Pang Zhijing said with a smile. The 2 maidservants looked at each other and felt that as long as the princess did not cause trouble, anything would be fine. After finishing her meal under the watchful eyes of the 2 servant girls, Pang Zhijing rubbed her round belly. Then, she stretched out her legs and said calmly, "Find me a few good-looking hairpins. I'm a princess, and my hair is always disheveled. What do I look like?" A maidservant righteously brought up the orders from above. "Princess, please bear with it." The higher-up said that before you arrive at the capital of Sichuan, you are not to be given any sharp weapons to prevent you from doing anything inappropriate or harming yourself. Pang Zhijing's eyes twitched. She was probably worried that she would commit suicide or use it to hurt others. This Pang Huang, he even calculated such a small matter. He was really too much. "Forget it, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll just ask for something else." Pang Zhijing had a benevolent look on her face. In the courtyard, Xiaohou was flipping through a book. "Your Highness, Lord Tori said that we can set off this afternoon. He sent this humble subject to ask if there are any other arrangements." The one who spoke was the Assistant Minister of Rights, Chai Xingyu, who had followed him here this time. Xiaohou muttered to himself. "Give the order directly. We'll set off this afternoon." "Yes." Chai Xingyu replied. Xiaohou asked casually, "Did the princess act strangely today? I heard from the servants that it was quite normal. She just asked for a lot of things early in the morning, including food and toys. She also said that she wanted to learn how to sew. She said that she could only be a good wife and a good mother when she arrives at the Sichuan." When Chai Xingyu said this, his face was full of disdain. Such a barbaric girl could not compare to the gentle and virtuous women of the Sichuan. But Xiaohou's fingers paused at his words, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Sure enough, as this prince expected, she still won't stop. Chai Xingyu did not understand. "Lord, what do you mean by this? You don't need to know too clearly." Xiaohou stood up and slowly said, "Go to the princess courtyard." "Yes." Chu Qingyan was leisurely waiting in the prince's residence's backyard. Because the weather was too hot, she did not want to go out for a stroll, so she hid in the study room filled with ice to cool off. "Where's Sichuan?" Ever since she came back from the poetry competition that day, she had not seen the shadow of her good friend. Young Master Hua, before Master left, she said that she might stay outside for a few days before coming back. Xining smiled as she handed over the melon with a toothpick inserted into it to her master. It was obvious that this person took Lin Darren out to take refuge. Chu Qingyan opened her eyes and gritted her teeth. Who was the one who had assured her that she could be at ease? She was going to chop her up. Jasper, send someone to tell her not to come back if she has the guts. Jasper obeyed. The person who was biting a chicken leg in the restaurant suddenly choked. Lin Fengyi saw this and immediately reached out to touch her back, forcing her to spit out the meat. It's finally out, I almost choked to death. Hua Shixuan suddenly gulped down a mouthful of water, feeling like she had just survived a disaster. Lin Fengyi's lips rose into a smile. What did you do this time? Am I a troublemaker in your eyes? She glared at him in dissatisfaction. I didn't say that. Lin Fengyi spread his hands. But when do you plan on returning to the King of England's residence? I also want to. It's been so hot outside these past few days, Qingyan's place is more comfortable. After she sighed, her expression became conflicted, but I don't know if the storm has passed. I don't want to be chased and beaten by her as soon as I go back. I can't beat her in a fight. Lin Fengyi looked at her as if she was reaping what she had sown. Xiao Su has his reasons for doing things, don't go against him in the future, especially when it's about Miss Chu. Hua Shixuan hugged her head and whined, don't say any more, I know I'm wrong. I won't drink with Qing Yan in the future, even if she wants to drink, I'll hold her back. Lin Fengyi laughed, I'm going back to the prince's residence today, do you want to come along? Anyway, you can hide for a while, but you can't hide forever. Hua Shixuan scratched her head. Actually, she wasn't afraid of her good friend, but the iceberg lord behind her good friend. She held Lin Fengyi's hand and said pitifully, if the King of England wants to settle accounts with me, you have to stand out and help me. Let's go. Lin Fengyi pulled her up. Regarding this matter, he wasn't worried about Xiao Su at all. On the contrary, he heard that Xiao Su was in good spirits these past few days, and he was more humane than before. It must have something to do with Chu Qingyan's drinking incident. But he didn't intend to tell Hua Shixuan. This matter was to teach her a lesson, so that she wouldn't get into trouble next time. This was the Lin family's motto, use others to achieve your goal, but don't let your wife blame you, killing two birds with one stone. Hua Shixuan thought that she was a cunning fox, but she didn't know that there was always a taller mountain, and a fox was more cunning than a fox. Chapter 1077. Chu Qingyan felt very embarrassed after coming back to her senses after being intimate with Big Ice Cube for 2 days. She didn't dare to look at him directly for a few days. It just so happened that Xiao Su was busy setting up defenses both inside and outside the city, so he didn't have a chance to catch her and properly interrogate her. He thought that if he let her stay alone for 2 days, with her temperament, she would quickly forget about this matter. Today, Lin Fengyi walked into Xiao Su's study. Xiao Su looked up when he heard footsteps. You're finally willing to show yourself. Lin Fengyi found a chair and sat down when he heard his good friend's teasing. I think it's time to come back and see how satisfied you are. Xiao Su choked and coughed lightly. He didn't say anything. Lin Fengyi was amused. It seems like this coincidentally happened in your sleeves. This girl is always worried that you'll find her for revenge. It seems like you're going to give her a red packet. Xiao Su had already regained his composure. He glanced at him and said, don't talk nonsense and ruin Ian's reputation. Lin Fengyi was shocked. Are you serious? You can actually hold it in. Xiao Su said indifferently, you talk too much. Lin Fengyi retracted his shocked expression and shrugged. Alright, I won't ask. However, I have to remind you that since you've already decided, you should get married as soon as possible to avoid unnecessary trouble. Xiao Su was silent for a moment. He felt that his good friend's words were not without reason. Lin Fengyi knew that his good friend was a smart person and didn't need him to worry too much. Oh right, I heard that you've already started setting up defenses. Lin Fengyi's expression became much more serious when they started talking about business. Xiao Su nodded. The Southern Heavenly Envoy group should arrive in half a month. I heard that the Tianji unit that was originally in charge of the city's defenses is made up of the sons of the Imperial Court officials. They're all a bunch of troublemakers and have caused you a lot of trouble recently. Are you confident that you can deal with them? Lin Fengyi asked. Xiao Su's expression was indifferent. Since they're wearing the military uniform and are in my hands, they have to follow my rules. If they disobey, they can only be dealt with according to military law. Lin Fengyi thought for a moment. I heard that the Tianji unit took in many ignorant and incompetent sons of officials. However, because of the power behind them, His Majesty could only turn a blind eye to them. Now that His Majesty has handed the Tianji unit to you, I feel that His Majesty's intentions. Xiao Su put down the letter in his hand, his eyes deep and unfathomable. There's nothing to think about. As long as the Southern Heavenly Envoys leave, this heavy responsibility will be lifted. Lin Fengyi glanced at him. His eyes were lowered and his expression was indifferent. No one could see any emotions in his eyes. Lin Fengyi sighed softly in his heart. In reality, he knew why the emperor had done this. Firstly, the people in the Tianji battalion were not to be trifled with. Xiao Su was ruthless and could not stand their laziness. He would definitely punish them. At that time, he would offend most of the officials in the court. Secondly, these disciples would bear a grudge against him and would not stand on his side in the future. His Majesty was killing two birds with one stone. If he could deal with the Tianji unit, they would be reborn and become an important barrier in the capital. If he couldn't, he would be able to plant prejudice against his good friend in their hearts. Lin Fengyi couldn't help but wonder how much fear a father had to go to this extent for his son. Even an outsider like him could see the trick. He didn't believe that his good friend couldn't. However, his good friend chose to ignore it. Because he didn't covet that high position, all of this didn't matter to him. However, Lin Fengyi didn't understand. Even he could see his good friend's attitude. Why wouldn't His Majesty let go of a son who gave unconditionally for the country and the people and didn't covet riches and power? Could it be that the higher a person was, the more cautious they would be and the less they would trust others? He wondered if there would be a day when it would backfire. Would His Majesty suddenly wake up and regret it? However, he didn't wish for such a moment to come. It would mean that mountains and rivers would be overturned and rivers of blood would flow. You came here today for this matter? Xiao Su was silent for a moment. Seeing that he was in a daze, he took the initiative to speak. Lin Fengyi came back to his senses and remembered the important matter. There's one more thing. It hasn't rained in a long time. A few cities in the north are already showing signs of drought. If it goes further north, it will be even more serious. If it still hasn't rained by the middle of the month, it will lead to a disaster. I heard that your mother has told His Majesty that she plans to go to the National Temple and pray for rain for a period of time. Xiao Su raised an eyebrow. I've been busy setting up defenses these days and haven't heard of this. However, it seems that you haven't been in Jing for long, but you are quite well informed. Lin Fengyi shook his head at Xiao Su's teasing. You can still laugh now, but it won't be the same later. Xiao Su couldn't help but frown. What do you mean? Lin Fengyi didn't keep him in suspense. Your mother is praying for rain this time to set an example. Many Furens and misses have smelled the intention and want to take this opportunity to curry favor and show their faces. They all recommend themselves, but you are busy with official business and don't worry about things that have nothing to do with you. Your little Wang Fei also doesn't pay attention to outside matters, so it's impossible for her to know these things. But you have to know that your little Wang Fei is the Empress' prospective daughter-in-law. She hasn't said anything for so many days, so I'm afraid that many people are laughing at her. Your Mu Fei will lose face and will definitely make trouble for your little Wang Fei. At that time, you have to pray for good luck. Xiao Su didn't understand the twists and turns between women. Hearing his good friend's reminder, He frowned slightly. If it wasn't a serious matter, his good friend wouldn't specially mention it. At this time, he had a hidden worry in his heart. Because he knew that Mohu was dissatisfied with the little fellow from the beginning. He didn't know if Mohu would use this matter to make an example. At this time, Huo Ling knocked on the door and entered the study. Master, the Empress has sent someone to the Wang Fu. Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi couldn't help but look at each other. They could see the understanding in each other's eyes. In the rear courtyard, Chu Qingyan was about to grab Hua Xiao and give her a fat beating when Jasper came in. Master, Aunt Luo Yun who serves the Empress has come. Chu Qingyan was stunned and took back her hand. What did she come to the Wang Fu for? This subordinate also doesn't know. She's in the guest room right now. Jasper replied. Let's go take a look. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Hua Xiao had finally escaped from the tiger's mouth with great difficulty, so she immediately jumped far away. Chu Qingyan looked at her in annoyance, then brought Jasper and Xining to the guest room. Greetings to Miss Chu. When Chu Qingyan appeared, Luo Yun bowed in greeting. Chu Qingyan gave her a seat and exchanged a few words with her. She only had an impression of this Luo Yun a few times in her memory. Especially 5 years ago when she was delivering a message for the Empress and didn't see the big ice cube, as well as the hurried glance at the palace banquet this time. Now that they were face to face, she could feel the ill intent coming from Luo Yun. Does Aunt Luo Yun have something important to discuss with Qing Yan in the Wang Fu? She asked with a faint smile. Because it hasn't rained for many months, many cities and towns have experienced a drought. The Empress is merciful and plans to gather all the madams and misses in the capital to pray for the common people. The Empress has ordered this servant to invite Miss Chu to come with us. Luo Yun said with a fake smile. Chapter 1078. How many days will it take? At least 3 days, at most 7 or 8 days. Praying for blessings requires sincerity, so the longer the better. Chu Qingyan's eyes twitched. Do I have the right to choose? Hearing Chu Qingyan's words, Luo Yun's eyes twitched. She felt that this girl did not know how to appreciate favors. Miss Chu, allow this servant to say something unpleasant. As His Highness fiancé and the future consort of the King of England, there will be many such things in the future. Do you think that with His Highness' support, you can ignore these favors? At this point, Luo Yun added in a cold voice, if you want to sit firmly in the position of consort, you should know that at this time, it's best to make connections. Even though we're just women, we can more or less build a foundation for His Highness' future path. Moreover, this was personally organized by the Empress. As the future daughter-in-law, it wouldn't be appropriate for you not to go, right? Chu Qingyan had to admit that her words were reasonable, but her tone made people feel very uncomfortable. After sending off Luo Yun, Chu Qingyan leaned back in her chair and covered her eyes with her fingers. She felt more tired than fighting a battle. Hua Xiao leaned against the door frame and secretly poked her head out. After seeing that there was no danger, she dared to walk in. What's wrong? Did that old woman make things difficult for you? Chu Qingyan was originally gloomy, but after hearing her teasing, she couldn't help but laugh. That Luo Yun was at most 30 or 40 years old. Being described by Hua Xiao like this, she felt a bit wronged. Even if she wants to make things difficult for me, I don't care. Seeing her laugh, Hua Xiao let out a sigh of relief. She smiled very infuriatingly. I like your scoundrel appearance. Right, why did she find you? Empress Liang wants to go to the National Temple to make a name for herself and wants me to go with her. I don't know what she's planning in secret. Chu Qingyan felt a headache coming on. Hua Xiao shrugged. When it comes to royal power, I can't do anything about it. You're on your own. Chu Qingyan glanced at her, I'm not counting on you. Let's get back to the main topic. You ran away from the battle a few days ago and left me in the prince's mansion. Should I settle it with you? Seeing that her good friend had already rolled up her sleeves, she jumped out of her sleeves and ran out. Miser, help! Help! Seeing the figure disappear through the door, Chu Qingyan's purposeful expression broke as she laughed uncontrollably. What are you so happy about? A low voice came from outside the door. Chu Qingyan took a closer look and saw a tall and elegant figure appear by the door. Why are you here? Aren't you busy? Xiao Su walked in with a stride. I heard Huo Ling say that someone from the palace came, so I came to see you. Your Empress Mother wants me to go to the National Temple to pray for rain for the citizens. She said concisely. If you don't want to go, I can tell Empress Mother. He sat down next to her and said in a calm voice. It seemed like Feng Yi had guessed correctly. Chu Qingyan looked at him dejectedly. This is no longer a matter of whether you are willing to step in or not. This is a matter of whether I can maintain my position as Princess Consort. Your Empress Mother is already unhappy with me, a daughter-in-law that she did not choose. This time, I did not volunteer myself, which made her even more unhappy. Today, she did not send someone here to discuss this matter with me, but to inform me directly. Even if you can help me hold them back for a while, can you hold them back forever? You might even anger her even more. Why is this baby's life so hard? At first, he felt that he had let the little fellow down, but when he heard her moaning, and most of her moaning, his worries were half gone. Then you've decided to go? He reached out to stroke her head as he asked. Does it even need to be said? Her lips curled and her eyes were firm. Also, I want to use this chance to see what your Empress Mother wants to do to let my father and mother go. Don't get involved in this matter, I'll take care of it myself. His fingers moved down and pinched her chubby little face. He smiled and said, that means, you already have a plan. Chu Qingyan lowered her head when she heard this. No. Xiao Su froze for a moment, then laughed out loud. He pulled her into his arms and said calmly and forcefully, just do whatever you want to do. If anything happens, I'll help you deal with the aftermath. Then what if I break the sky? She raised her head from his embrace and asked with sparkling eyes. If you break the sky, I'll help you fix it. If not, we'll just run away together. Xiao Su lowered his head to peck her nose and laughed softly. She closed her eyes and nestled in his embrace. She sighed happily, Big Ice Cube, you're so good. Xiao Su tightened his arms and his lips curved. But the two people hugging each other didn't think that the words they said today would become a prophecy in the near future. Chaoyang Palace. Luo Yun had just returned from outside the palace when one of the palace maids that served the Empress walked over. Gugu, the Empress is looking for you. Luo Yun nodded, I'll go over right now. After entering the hall, Luo Yun saw her mistress sipping tea. She quickly walked up to her mistress. You're back. How did it go? Empress Liang asked in a calm voice. This servant has already delivered the message. That Yada didn't dare to resist and agreed. Luo Yun reported. I don't think she dares to have an opinion, Empress Liang snorted coldly. Because of her, Ben Gong has become the laughingstock of many people in the Hogong. Luo Yun knew that this time, her master's suggestion of going to the National Temple had received the support of many Furins inside and outside the court. But only the King of England's Fu hadn't made a move, causing everyone to think that Empress Liang wasn't close to this daughter-in-law. Yesterday in the Imperial Garden, Consort Yu had mocked her openly and secretly, saying that it was because mother and son weren't on good terms recently. This had angered her master so much that she had smashed several priceless vases. She agreed and said, this Chu Qingyan is too insensible. She let master suffer so much injustice for no reason. When she goes to the National Temple, without His Highness around, you can do whatever you want with her. Won't it be up to you? Empress Liang calmed down and raised her hand, saying, this time, Jing Yatu and Bing Yatu will also go. Arrange for a few capable mamas to follow them and give them some advice. This time, Ben Gong wants to use this opportunity to make them stand out. In the future, they will have the capital to be promoted to the position of consort. Luo Yun said, yes. Right, where are the Chu couple now? Why haven't they entered the capital after so long? Empress Liang finally remembered. Luo Yun hesitated. According to the reports of the servants, this Chu Lei has a lot of problems. He said that he can't stand the bumpiness of the carriage and will feel dizzy. His body doesn't feel well. The guards don't dare to rush and can only slowly move the carriage step by step and provide him with good food and drink. Empress Liang angrily slapped the table. Why are there so many problems? Get them into the capital as soon as possible to avoid any more problems. Yes. Luo Yun felt that this matter wasn't easy to handle, but she still forced herself to agree. Chapter 1079. In the past 2 days, the entire city was filled with rumors that Empress Liang was preparing to take the womenfolk to the national temple to pray for rain. The people were very simple people. When they heard good news, they would praise. When they heard bad news, they would complain and be angry. Now, everyone was praising Empress Liang for having a bodhisattva's heart. She was considerate of the people and was a blessing to the country. In the private room above the restaurant, a light snort sounded. You haven't acted yet, but your future mother-in-law has earned enough reputation. This move is really good. Chu Qingyan raised her eyes. You close the door and eat. Don't go and join in the fun. Okay, I know you are going to the national temple tomorrow. Today, I will accompany you to eat a good meal to satisfy your cravings. Hua Xiu returned to the table with her hands behind her back. Hey, can't you just let me have a proper meal? Don't bring up my sore spot, okay? Chu Qingyan glared at her as she bit down on the bone in her mouth, making a cracking sound. Hua Xiu felt that the crunch was like biting her bone. She couldn't help but touch her arm. Right, let's talk about business. Didn't you plan to introduce the continuation products to the capital? Although I was not in the palace these 2 days, I was not idle. I bought a shop and prepared to open it in 2 days. Hua Xiu looked like she was asking for praise and caress. If she had a tail, it would be wagging left and right. Chu Qingyan put down the cup in her hand. Her eyes were bright. How much goods did you bring to the capital this time? Not much, not little. Just over 1,000 taels. But when I left Jiangnan, I arranged for another group to escort the goods to the capital. They should arrive in the capital in 10 days. Hua Xiu nodded as she spoke. Chu Qingyan clapped her hands and smiled. Hua Xiu, I was not wrong about you. When I came to the capital this time, I found that the women in the capital are lacking in skincare. In addition, the climate is dry. Many people can't cover their faces with powder. As long as the first shot is successful, I believe that the continuation products in the capital will be rolling in money. Hua Xiu smirked. Of course, don't you know who I am? Although I'm not gray-haired and have a beard, I've been following my father around since I was young, learning how to do business. My experience is no worse than those old guys. Before she finished speaking, a drumstick was stuffed in her mouth. Chu Qingyan smiled. I will reward you with a big drumstick. Hua Xiu was tempted by the fragrance. She didn't say anything and ate. So, this fasting is a good opportunity. Chu Qingyan looked at her good friend eating so happily and couldn't help but smile. As she picked up her cup again, she suddenly thought of something. I don't understand, Hua Xiu said incoherently. Chu Qingyan's eyes sparkled. Aren't the women of the officials going to the national temple this time? Their words and actions will affect the trends of the entire capital. As long as I use this opportunity to promote our products, I won't be afraid that no one will care about you when you open. This is what they mean by, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I thought you were going to suffer, but I didn't expect to find business opportunities. It seems that you are right to go to the national temple. Hua Xiu clapped her hands and agreed with surprise. Chu Qingyan's dark clouds disappeared. She felt that the sky was much brighter. Okay, what else do you want to eat? Order as much as you can. It's my treat. It was your treat. Did you plan to trick me from the beginning? Hua Xiu cried. Chu Qingyan smiled noncommittally. The two of them didn't eat for long before the door was pushed open. The two of them looked up at the same time and saw Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi walk in one after the other. You came at the right time. The dishes just came up. Chu Qingyan greeted them. The two of them had just left court when they received Hu Ling's report outside the palace. But they didn't expect to see two big tabby cats as soon as they walked in. Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi looked at each other and saw helplessness in each other's eyes. Meeting this kind of silly girl, they could only accept it. Hua Xiu was chewing on a bone. She saw Xiao Su carefully picking out fish bones for Hua Xiu. She fiercely stepped on Lin Fengyi's foot under the table. Look at him, and then look at yourself. I finally know what it means to be angered to death by comparison. Lin Fengyi was innocently stepped on. He glared daggers at Xiao Su. When did he become so gentle and considerate? Even if he wanted to show off his love, he shouldn't do it in public. Did he know how much trouble it would cause others? In the end, Chu Qingyan saw official Lin silently helping Hua Xiu peel the prawns. She felt that it was rare to see such a considerate boyfriend who was both civil and military. She was sincerely happy for Hua Xiu. Shui Ling has already found traces of your parents, after eating and drinking to his heart's content, Xiao Su said while wiping his hands. Where? Chu Qingyan's relaxed attitude was swept away and she asked in surprise and nervousness. Qingping town, 3 days away from the capital. Xiao Su replied. Hua Xiu was puzzled, why are they so slow? We've already been here for several days. Lin Fengyi, who was beside her, took over the conversation with a light sigh and a smile. I heard that the other party wanted to bring your parents to the capital as soon as possible. Unfortunately, they were tormented by your father to the point that they had nothing left to live for. Now they're crawling on the road like a tortoise. Chu Qingyan's heart was still in her throat, but when she heard Lin Fengyi's words, she heaved a sigh of relief. She smiled again and said, my father is very smart. How could he be bullied so easily? However, she also knew that if it weren't for her relationship with Big Ice Cube, it was hard to say what these people would do. The most important thing now was to rescue her parents from Empress Liang. Otherwise, if they were always controlled by others, it would be very disadvantageous for both Big Ice Cube and her parents. Thinking of this, Chu Qingyan was even more determined to go to the National Temple this time. That's right, that's right. How could Uncle be at a disadvantage? Those people must be very regretful that they provoked Uncle, haha. Hua Xiu was so happy that she kept clapping. Lin Fengyi smiled, it's about time. We should go back. Xiao Su nodded. Thus, the group pushed open the door and prepared to leave. At this moment, a delicate female voice sounded. Cousin, what a coincidence. You're also here to eat. The voice was somewhat familiar. Xiao Su turned and saw two finely dressed women standing at the door of another private room. Although he had some impression of them, he couldn't remember who they were. Seeing Xiao Su frown and look at them as if they were strangers, Liang Danbing anxiously said, Cousin, I'm Bing, I went to Jiangnan before. Have you forgotten? Chu Qingyan had just taken a step when she heard their voices. She couldn't help but narrow her eyes to look at them. So it's my two cousins. Long time no see. How have you been? She smiled faintly and calmly as she greeted them. Then, she continued, His Highness usually doesn't have much of an impression of unimportant people. Please excuse us. Chu Qingyan's appearance and her words successfully made the Liang sisters blush. Chapter 1080. Because Xiao Su was near the door, he walked out first with Lin Fengyi. Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiu were whispering behind them, so the Liang sisters did not notice them. Previously, they didn't want to come to this restaurant, but when they saw Xiao Su going up to this restaurant, they wanted to create a chance encounter. Thus, they asked the waiter in the restaurant and immediately booked a private room near him. They did not expect that Chu Qingyan would also be in this private room. When they were sent back to the capital from Jiangnan, it was a great humiliation for the sisters. Now that they met again, it was really a small world. So Miss Chu is also here. I thought it was only cousin. Liang Danbing said in a strange tone. The temperature outside was a bit high, so Chu Qingyan was not in the mood to reminisce. She did not want to have anything to do with them, so she pursed her lips. I'm tired of the food in the residence, so I came out for a walk. You must not have finished eating, right? Then we won't disturb you. We'll leave first. Liang Danjing observed and realized that Xiao Su had not said a single word from the beginning to the end. He had allowed Chu Qingyan to do all the talking. Liang Danjing felt a little displeased. They had endured the heat just to see him, but he still did not care about them. She felt a sense of malice rise in her heart as she targeted Chu Qingyan. Miss Chu is really impatient. The sun is so hot outside. Why don't you sit for a while and avoid the sun? Liang Danjing said with a smile. Her words were appropriate and considerate. Normal people would not have the heart to refuse. Hua Xiu looked at her good friend, then looked at the two people. She immediately understood the relationship between them. She crossed her arms and leaned to one side to watch the show. These two were really bold. They dared to play tricks in front of Qingyan. She was happy to watch this free show. Before Chu Qingyan could reply, Liang Danbing could not help but speak up. Lady Chu, you have just arrived in the capital city not long ago. I'm sure you are not familiar with the culture here. We have grown up here since we were young, and we can give you some pointers to prevent you from making a fool of yourself again. Chu Qingyan frowned. A big joke? That's right, Liang Danbing said in a strange tone, it's this fast. As my cousin's fiancée in name and Aunt Empress's future daughter-in-law, you should be a role model and respond. Unfortunately, you haven't said anything. Do you know how many people in the capital are laughing at you? They say you're afraid of suffering and don't want to be vegetarian. Not only have you implicated my cousin's reputation, but you've also embarrassed Aunt Empress. Don't you think it's time to learn the rules and know what to do and what not to do? Since we have time today, why don't we teach you? Liang Danjing was a little embarrassed by her sister's words. Although she wanted to make Chu Qingyan suffer, she didn't want to do it this way. She felt that her sister was being too impulsive. Miss Chu, please don't misunderstand. Little Bing is a straightforward person. She doesn't mean any harm. When Liang Danjing said this, she was looking at Xiao Su's expression. But from beginning to end, he had a cold expression. This made her heart suddenly lose confidence. Ayan, it's time to go. Xiao Su spoke. He didn't even look at the Liang sisters. Chu Qingyan had prepared a retort, but after hearing the big ice cube's words, she ignored the two. Some people were like grasshoppers. The more you paid attention to them, the happier they would jump. Being ignored so thoroughly, the Liang sisters suddenly felt very embarrassed. Liang Danbing couldn't help but jump out. Cousin, we're still your cousins. How can you always ignore us? If Aunt knew, she would be sad. Xiao Su stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at the two indifferently. I'll correct you one last time. If you want to keep emphasizing this king's relationship with your Liang family, then remember that Ayan is your cousin-in-law. Otherwise, don't blame this king for turning hostile. After leaving behind these shocking words, Xiao Su brought Chu Qingyan downstairs without looking back. Didn't you say the roast duck here was too greasy? When we go back, have Huang Yi make you a bowl of plum soup to get rid of the greasy taste. Xiao Su acted like there was no one else around as he asked the person beside him. He didn't seem as cold as before. All right, I feel like I can eat another plate of lotus seed cakes. Chu Qingyan agreed with a smile. Lin Fengyi and Hua Xiuli felt that the show was about over. They tacitly turned around and left with Xiao Su. Only Liang Danjing and Liang Danbing were frozen in place by Xiao Su's cold words. Older sister, did older cousin just say that he's going to turn hostile with our Liang family for Chu Qingyan? Liang Danbing turned around to ask. Liang Danjing was shocked and a bit amused. Older cousin would actually abandon their Liang family for a woman? When she heard her younger sister's question in her shock, she forced herself to say, he won't. The Liang family is his left and right arm. He won't abandon it. But, Liang Danbing wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Liang Danjing. There are no buts. You just need to remember this. Also, don't mention today's matter to father and mother. Then are we just going to let Chu Qingyan do whatever she wants? Older sister, I can't take this lying down. Liang Danbing was very angry. What are you afraid of? We'll see Chu Qingyan again during this fast. When the time comes, we'll be staying at the National Temple for a few days. You'll have plenty of opportunities to collect your debt. Liang Danjing smiled gently, but her smiling eyes seemed to be filled with venom, shining with a faint light. Liang Danbing suddenly understood and her heart felt a lot better. She thought about how to get justice for herself at the National Temple. When they got on the carriage, Chu Qingyan's smile turned into a faint smile. Why is it that when a man attracts bees and butterflies, the one who suffers is the woman by his side? When he heard this tone, he knew that the little fellow was angry. Xiao Su spread his hands. This kind of attracting bees and butterflies is divided into active and passive. Don't define it so easily. I don't care. Because of you, I've always suffered undeserved disasters. How are you going to make it up to me? Chu Qingyan didn't buy his explanation. She went forward and grabbed his collar, fiercely saying. Xiao Su smiled, I'll let you do whatever you want. Chu Qingyan's face turned red. She immediately let go of her hand and glared at him, stinky guy. Xiao Su smiled. His long hand scooped her up and pulled her into his embrace. Chu Qingyan's struggle was futile. She was thrown into the arms of this beautiful man. On the boundless land. Xiao Ho had escorted the Southern Blue diplomatic group for an entire day. At this moment, everyone stopped to rest on a small mountain path. At this moment, Xiao Ho was flipping through the letter from the capital. He smiled, this Empress Liang isn't stupid. She actually thought of this move. Not only did it help her gain fame, it also helped Xiao Su win the hearts of the people. This Empress Liang can't be underestimated. Jehovah, what should we do next? Chai Xingyu asked. Let's not make a move. We'll wait and see. We'll talk about it when we return to the capital. Xiao Ho closed the letter. He didn't care about this matter at all. At this moment, a subordinate hurriedly ran over. Jehovah, the princess escaped again. Xiao Ho narrowed his eyes. Chapter 1081. In the quiet forest, there were suddenly sounds of searching and soldiers everywhere. Pang Zhijing tightly hugged the tree trunk and did not let go. Just now, she used the excuse of going to the toilet to sneak away under the watchful eyes of the maidservants and then climbed up the nearest tree because she subconsciously believed that the most dangerous place was the safest place. Looking at the soldiers walking back and forth below, Pang Zhijing was happy and carefree. But calculating the time, Xiao Ho should have received the news of her escape. This Xiao Ho was simply too hateful. Yesterday, she had managed to cheat the embroidery needle from the maidservants with great difficulty, but before she could even try to open the lock, he found out and confiscated it. He also told the maidservants not to provide her with anything except food, drink, and clothing. Thinking back to that time when he wanted to feed her to the wolf dogs, she was afraid and hated him. Wasn't he just a little good-looking? His heart was really black. Once she left this time, she would definitely stab him with a small person and step on him a few times. But that would have to wait until she escaped to heaven. She glanced at the exquisite lock on her feet and her face darkened. She was gambling that the compass was actually Pang Huang's way of scaring her. She thought of a way to wrap the bell on her foot with a cloth so that the sound would not leak out. As long as the compass was useless, she would be able to escape safely after a few more days. At this time, she heard a group of people walking in her direction. Lord, the princess disappeared around here. It was the voice of the maidservant who served her. The princess's foot is injured, so she can't run far. You guys slowly expand your search area from here. Xiao Ho swept his eyes over the place and ordered everyone. Yes. Soon, she heard the sound of everyone spreading out to search. Pang Zhijing held her breath and did not dare to breathe out because she knew that in ancient times, many experts could find a hiding place through a person's breathing. But she was suffocating to death. Xiao Ho stood under a tree not far away and calmly looked at the forest. The guards who left came back to report. "Lord, we didn't find the princess." "Princess, we also didn't find her." At this moment, Chai Xingyu suggested, "Lord, you can try the compass left behind by the Prince of Nansong." When Pang Zhijing heard this, she couldn't help but tense up. Why was this person so talkative? Pang Huang's eyes lit up and he said to Chai Xingyu with a troubled expression, that compass was only used by the Prince of Nansong to scare the princess. It's useless. This. Chai Xingyu had no other choice. Pang Zhijing breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. It seemed that she had made the right bet. The compass was just a bluff from Pang Huang. She was so proud that she forgot to cover her breathing. Xiao Ho glanced at the tree where Pang Zhijing was hiding, and a flash of understanding appeared in his eyes. But, Pang Zhijing's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. This king already knows the princess's whereabouts. With that, everyone's attention was drawn to Xiao Ho, including Pang Zhijing. However, she was more convinced that Xiao Ho was tricking her. And at this moment, Xiao Ho's gaze accurately landed on the tree in front of him. "Princess, how long do you plan to hide?" Pang Zhijing was shocked and looked up, only to meet his confident gaze. Those guards followed Xiao Ho's instructions and immediately surrounded the tree. Now, she was surrounded on all sides. She looked at Xiao Ho, who had walked to the tree, and said angrily, "Can't you just pretend that you don't see me? This king can't do that." Xiao Ho spread his hands. Pang Zhijing snorted and didn't intend to pay attention to him. Xiao Ho raised his hand and someone planned to climb up and bring her down. This action caused Pang Zhijing to scream, "Don't come over." Xiao Ho smiled gently. "Does the princess plan to spend the night up there?" "I want to," she stubbornly said. Xiao Ho said considerately, "Then we'll wait until the princess is ready to come down. However, I heard that in this forest, although there aren't many wild beasts, there are quite a few reptiles. The princess' courage to stay here alone is commendable." After saying that, he turned to leave with his subordinates. Reptiles? Her first thought was the poisonous snake she saw a few days ago, and she couldn't help but feel goosebumps all over her body. "Wait." Xiao Ho turned to look at her without any surprise. "Does the princess have any other orders?" Pang Zhijing put on a strong front and said, "Come here." These words surprised him a little, but he still walked over and stood under the tree. Just as he was about to look up, a black shadow pounced at him. He wanted to dodge, but this would clearly expose the fact that he knew martial arts in front of others. In this moment of distraction, he landed on the ground. He looked coldly at the person hanging on his body. The princess is so skilled. Pang Zhijing wanted to give herself full marks for her success, but when she came into contact with him, she felt that this person was emitting a cold aura. However, when she looked up to see what was going on, he still had a gentle smile on his face. "I have no choice. My foot is injured, and those guards are clumsy. I'm afraid the wound will worsen, so I have to trouble you, Your Highness. After all, first-time strangers, second-time friends." In fact, it was because she didn't like to be touched by other men. If she had to choose one, she would rather choose the good-looking Xiao Ho. Plus, when she fell, he caught her once. In terms of safety, she trusted him more. Xiao Ho's eyes fell on her foot. It seemed to be more swollen than before, but this was not his concern. In that case, the princess can go down. Xiao Ho was still good-tempered. Pang Zhijing thought this person looked easy to bully, but if she really thought so, she wouldn't know when she would be betrayed. She wouldn't admit that she felt the threat in his eyes, so she went down obediently. But before she landed, she stomped on his foot hard. After she succeeded, she jumped to a safe distance with one foot, and said to him fiercely, "This is your punishment." After that, she quickly fled the scene with the help of her maid. Xiao Ho looked at the gray footprint on his shoe, and the corner of his eyes twitched. "Lord, are you okay?" Chai Xingyu didn't dare to look at him, and asked in a low voice. "I'm fine." Xiao Ho turned and left. Chai Xingyu touched his nose, and felt that Lord was really a little scary when he was so calm. At this moment, Peng Zhijing was sitting by the fire. When she saw Xiao Ho coming from afar, she snorted and played with the firewood in her hand as if she didn't see him. The flames danced in her eyes, as if there were images of the past floating in her mind. She couldn't help but hug her knees. She really wanted to go home. The person who was supposed to pass by suddenly stood in front of her. Peng Zhijing slowly raised her head, and the confusion in her eyes faded. She said vigilantly, "What do you want to do? Do you want to take revenge? Let me tell you, a gentleman won't touch a girl." Xiao Ho looked down at her. "I'll give you 3 chances." "What?" She was a little surprised. "If you can escape from my hands, I'll set you free." Chapter 1082. Red rain is falling from the sky. Snow in June. Is the sun rising from the west? Peng Zhijing blinked as she looked at Xiao Ho in disbelief. "Are you playing with me?" "I'll only say it once." Xiao Ho calmly looked at her. All right, I promise you." Peng Zhijing excitedly jumped up, forgetting that her foot was injured. With a step, she fell back with a scream. Luckily, the maid behind her quickly caught her. When Xiao Ho left, he left behind a message. "The time limit is before we enter the capital, but this king will remind the princess that there is no need to hide in the tree." Peng Zhijing's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at his elegant figure. She felt that this person was not that annoying, he was really pleasing to the eye. But she later found that this person was not only annoying, he was also a wicked and cunning devil. After leaving Peng Zhijing's fire, Chai Xingyu, who had been following behind Xiao Ho, finally could not help asking, "Lord, why did you give the princess a chance? That princess looks like a lamp that is not easy to deal with. Aren't we just asking for trouble like this?" Xiao Ho turned around and coldly looked at his subordinate. "Are you questioning this king's decision?" This subordinate does not dare. Chai Xingyu immediately bowed his head in apology. When the robe in front of him disappeared from his sight, Chai Xingyu finally dared to raise his head. He pressed a hand to his chest as he slightly panted with a lingering fear. It was close to evening, but the sky was still bright and the air was still heavy. Hua Xiao was nestled in Chu Qingyan's room, enjoying the cold wind inside. She then watched her instruct Jasper and Xining to tidy up their clothes. "Rest for a bit. I saw you so busy when I came back." Hua Xiao could not help saying. Chu Qingyan ignored her. "We're setting off tomorrow. If I don't prepare ahead of time, I'll be flustered tomorrow." Hua Xiao propped up her chin and was bored to death. She began to complain, "I say, this mother-in-law of yours is too much. She can just go and pray. Why does she have to drag a bunch of people with her? If you have the ability, why don't you ask her in front of her?" Chu Qingyan was almost done with her instructions. She walked back to the table and sat down. She poured herself a glass of water. "It's not like you don't know that I have the heart but not the guts. Yelling at a palace master, am I tired of living?" Hua Xiuli's face immediately drooped. "Also, aren't I worried about you? He'll be gone for so many days, and he'll have to be a vegetarian. He'll have to face so many jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards. Just thinking about it makes me shiver. Why are you thinking so much?" Chu Qingyan glanced at her. "We'll have to face it tomorrow anyway." Yes, I'm just a eunuch who's more worried than the emperor." Hua Xiao shrugged his shoulders in surrender. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. "I appreciate your kindness. I know you treat me the best." Hua Xiuli snorted and then continued, "That's right, I forgot to ask. Who's going this time?" "The Empress, Consort you, those concubines, and the court officials' womenfolk. Oh, also, Xiaoran is in charge of security this time. She heard this from the big ice cube. When she heard Xiaoran's name, a strange expression appeared on Hua Xiuli's face. Xiaoran is also going. And, I heard the big ice cube say that Xiaoran took the initiative to ask for the imperial edict to be in charge. I didn't expect him to be so ambitious. Chu Qingyan praised. Hua Xiuli shook her head. I don't think so. What? It seems like you have some opinions about Xiaoran. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but be curious. Hua Xiuli pursed her lips. I don't have any opinions about him. Whether he's good or bad has nothing to do with me. But I did notice something. Do you remember the serious matter I wanted to talk to you about in the carriage? It's related to him. When the carriage was mentioned, Hua Xiuli couldn't help but blush. She still remembered what Qingyan said to her in the carriage. It was too. Chu Qingyan didn't notice the change in her expression and became even more curious. What is it? I don't know if you noticed, but the way Xiaoran looks at you is very strange. It doesn't seem like the way a friend would look at you. Moreover, he seems to care a lot about you. As a bystander, I feel that it's a bit strange. Hua Xiu dismissed the strange thoughts in her mind and said seriously. When Chu Qingyan heard this, she didn't think it was strange. Instead, she thought that Hua Xiuli was thinking too much. She smiled and said, Xiaoran and I are friends. We met 5 years ago. I'm also his future sister-in-law, so it's normal for him to be close to me. And with their noble status, it's usually hard for them to make true friends. I'm his only friend, so I don't think it's strange. No, Qingyan, don't think it's so simple. In any case, I believe in my eyes and intuition. Hua Xiuli shook her head, not agreeing with her words. Chu Qingyan was puzzled. Forget it. Just take it that I'm thinking too much. Right now, you should worry about your fasting. You can't eat meat for several days and can't come back. The heavens have pity on you. Alright, I won't disturb you and your highness. When Hua Xiuli saw the person walking in, she stood up and winked at Chu Qingyan. Then, without waiting for her to respond, she walked out. Chu Qingyan turned to call out to her to explain, but she saw Xiao Su slowly walking over. What are you talking about? Xiao Su walked in front of her. He looked at the prepared bundle on the table and asked with a puzzled expression. She smiled and shook her head. I was just playing with Hua Xiuli. How did you have time to come over? I came to see you. He rubbed her head and smiled. When Jasper and Xining saw this, they immediately covered their mouths and snickered and quickly left the room. Chu Qingyan heard the servant girls teasing and glared at him with a slightly red face. In a certain residence in the capital. Young palace master, who do you plan to send to the national temple tomorrow? Xuanqi Zimo asked the person sitting at the table. Higashio Motetsu was dressed in a purple brocade robe and was lazily leaning against the main seat. When he heard this, he slowly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of beautiful phoenix eyes. Father's orders? Xuanqi Zimo replied, yes. The palace master said that His Highness Fourth Highness will be in charge of the security arrangements for the national temple this time. He wants you to send a few experts to protect His Highness Fourth Highness. Father really cares about this Xiaoran. Higashio Motetsu's expression was indifferent, and no one could tell what he was thinking. Xuanqi Zimo didn't dare to say anything and only lowered his head. Higashio Motetsu suddenly asked, is Qingyan going this time as well? Yes. I heard that Empress Liang personally asked her to go. Xuanqi Zimo didn't dare to delay and immediately replied. With that, Higashio Motetsu fell silent. Just when Xuanqi Zimo thought that his master wouldn't say anything else, he suddenly heard him say, this time, this young master will go personally. Xuanqi Zimo was stunned, but he didn't dare to ask any more questions and immediately agreed. When Higashio Motetsu was the only one left in the room, he fell into deep thought. Finally, he smiled lightly, but it was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. Qing Yan, I've been hiding from you for so long. It's time to show yourself. Chapter 1083. As they were about to part, Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su stood in the courtyard to talk. If there's anything, you can ask Jasper to contact Water Spirit. I'll ask her to keep an eye on your situation. Xiao Su looked at her and said seriously. Chu Qingyan found it funny. She took his hand and joked, Big Ice Cube, I'm going to fast, not to fight a war. You've already told me so many things since last night. It's been a long time since you've left me for so long. Xiao Su's calm statement of facts succeeded in making Chu Qingyan quiet down and listen attentively. Okay, please continue. This little one is listening. Xiao Su was interrupted by her mischievous spirit and couldn't help but be amused. He smiled helplessly and finally reached out to rub her head. He said dotingly, I can't accompany you this time. Be careful. After saying that, he pulled her into his arms and tightened his arms. Although he didn't say anything, his body language constantly conveyed his reluctance to part. She originally wanted to say a few words to dilute the sad atmosphere between them. But for some reason, when the light ink fragrance of the big ice cube lingered at the tip of her nose, she couldn't help but want to indulge in this clean and warm embrace forever. Big Ice Cube, I really can't bear to part with you. It wasn't because she was pretentious, but because it was difficult for them to move forward in the capital. No matter what you did, there were countless eyes watching you. For example, with this matter of fasting, how many people were looking at you as a joke? But because of this powerful society, if you were one rank lower than the officials, you were inferior to them. You had to obey the orders from above. Chu Qingyan felt that this wasn't a place where people could cry and laugh as they wanted. In the future, she could expect that it would be an abyss of suffering for a period of time. The little fellow's words caused Xiao Su's heart to soften. He lowered his head and kissed her. It wasn't as domineering and direct as before, but extremely lingering. It made people unable to stop and was filled with reluctance. In the end, she tightly hugged his waist and made a decision. Since she had decided to come to the capital, she shouldn't always stay in the Wang Fu. She had to act when she needed to. As long as she protected herself and didn't cause trouble for the big ice cube, those who wanted to cause trouble, she would beat them up one by one. Big Ice Cube, I will take care of myself, don't worry. She said seriously. Alright, I will have Huang Yi to prepare your favorite food and wait for your return. Even though he was reluctant, Xiao Su couldn't keep her company at this time, so he said in a low voice to keep her company to her. In the corner of the long corridor, Hong Yi to keep her eyes on to the two embracing each other in the courtyard. Even though she was unwilling to leave, but she had to make use of the chance to use this time to make the best use this time to make use this chance while the Wang Fei was not in the Fu. Thinking to do so make use of. Before sending her off, Hua Xiu had emphasized that if someone bullied her, she had to pay back an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. After getting on the carriage, Chu Qingyan said to Xining and Jasper in amusement, I didn't think much of it at first, but hearing them say it now, I feel like I'm going to a dragon's lair or a tiger's den. Xining couldn't help but laugh, this description is too scary, but everyone is worried about Mistress. She nodded and then ordered, when we go to the National Temple this time, we will be low-key. We won't get into conflict with people and won't cause trouble, understood? Jasper and Xining both acknowledged. This time, they were gathering at the palace gates. Because the big ice cube needed to go to the military camp to train the new soldiers, he couldn't come with her. But she didn't think that this would become a topic of criticism. Who said that His Highness Prince Ing had been hiding his fiancée in the prince's mansion and treasuring her so much? Why did he let her go out alone and didn't even send her off? When they arrived at the palace gates, there were already many carriages waiting there. When they saw Chu Qingyan's carriage, they started to whisper. Some of them wanted to embarrass Chu Qingyan, so they didn't control their volume. Inside the carriage, Xining couldn't sit still. She wanted to rush out and reason with them, but she was stopped by her master. Mistress, they're going too far. Xining's eyes were red with anger. Chu Qingyan was unmoved. Did you forget what I told them before we left? Didn't they use words to provoke us so that we would fly into a rage out of humiliation? We couldn't control ourselves from the start. When we enter the national temple in the future, won't we be so angry that we'll vomit blood? She knew that Xining and Jasper were inexperienced girls. They couldn't stand these women who cultivated in the inner residence all day long. It was normal for them to lose their cool and be angered. Then are we going to let them bully us like this? Xining was a little unwilling. Jasper said, Xining, listen to mistress first. Don't be rash. Chu Qingyan laughed, you've been with me for so long. Do you think that I'm someone who will be taken advantage of? Xining shook her head. That's right. Those people outside are actually the least worthy of our attention. They only know how to provoke a war of words. Often, they don't have any real ability. At most, they're just showing off. They don't do any real harm to us. Often, it's those who don't move on the surface but scheme in the dark that are truly terrifying. Chu Qingyan felt that perhaps this was an opportunity to properly nurture the two of them. Only then would they be able to hold their own in the future. Thus, she spoke in great detail. That's why, for those who like to make things difficult with words, the more you pay attention to them, the more excited they become. If you ignore them, they'll feel that they're not interested and will cease their banners and drums. Thus, there's no need to bicker with these people on the surface. You'll raise their status, but you'll end up lowering your own. Xining and Jasper both benefited greatly from this and nodded in agreement. Xining said somewhat excitedly, so mistress means that the dog that bites doesn't bark, and the dog that barks doesn't bite? Chu Qing broke into laughter and said to Jasper, Xining's analogy is really vivid. A trace of a smile also appeared on Jasper's stoic face. Xining rubbed her head and also smiled foolishly. However, we can't just suffer in silence for no reason. Jasper, remember these people's carriages today and have Water Spirit investigate their origins. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win. In any case, I have all the time in the world to collect these debts. Chu Qingyan's smile disappeared and her expression became somewhat cold. She was quite similar to Xiao Su's usual style. Jasper replied, yes. Xining suddenly understood. Mistress, this servant understands. We have to deal with different people differently. For some people, we can't immediately retaliate. We can wait until later to deal with them. It seems that this little melon seed is quite enlightened. Not bad. As an encouragement, come, let me reward you with good news. Chu Qingyan pinched her smooth little face. What good news? Xining was pleasantly surprised. This time, your family's Gene Xin is also here. Ah, mistress is so annoying. Xining covered her face. Ha! Chapter 1084. The people outside talked for a long time in this hot summer, but there was no movement from the other party. They couldn't help but ask for a rebuff, and went to rest. Many times, the more arrogant and despotic others were, the more you didn't take them seriously, and the more frustrated they would feel. They couldn't do anything to you, and could only be a clown at the side. This was the case at the palace gates. When those people heard the cheerful laughter coming from Chu Qingyan's carriage, they couldn't help but suffer internal injuries. It turned out that the other party didn't even want to pay attention to them. Right at this moment, a carriage approached them. When Chu Qingyan heard the news, she lifted the curtain and saw Qi Lingyi and Yu Tianyue sitting in the opposite carriage. When they were being ostracized by everyone, the two of them were still willing to get close to them. It was really quite surprising. You're here too. She smiled and greeted them. Big Sister Chu, when we heard that you were here, Big Sister Lingyi and I came to find you. Yu Tianyue said happily as soon as she saw him. Qi Lingyi, who was beside her, also nodded at her with a smile. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but smile. I'm very happy that you still remember me. It's hard to forget a girl like you who's so good-looking, gentle, and friendly to others. Yu Tianyue had a childish temperament, so she spoke with such sincerity and joy that others couldn't help but smile. Did you eat too much honey today? Why are you speaking so sweetly? Chu Qingyan teased her. At this moment, Qi Lingyi looked around and asked softly, Big Sister Chu, His Royal Highness didn't come with you? Before Chu Qingyan could answer, Xining had already replied indignantly, If His Highness came, my master wouldn't have to suffer these people's idle anger. That's true. I also heard people talking about it just now. I think it's probably because they're full and have nothing to do. Sister Chu, you don't have to pay attention to them. Yu Tianyue very considerately comforted her. Chu Qingyan smiled gently. She felt that this little girl was quite cute. I know, I didn't take it to heart. Qi Lingyi nodded in agreement. In fact, when she heard that the King of England didn't send Chu Qingyan here, she was a little regretful that she couldn't see him. However, she was more thankful that the King of England didn't dote on her that much. No one knew what Qi Lingyi was thinking. The sun was getting brighter and brighter. There were eunuchs from the palace in front of them registering the number of people. Before they reached them, Chu Qingyan had 2 servant girls take out the pastries in the carriage and share them with the 2 misses. Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi were polite at first, but in the end, they couldn't resist the temptation of the delicious food and asked the maid beside them to take it. Yu Tianyue took a bite and exclaimed in surprise, This plum blossom crisp is delicious. Big Sister Chu, where did you buy this? This was made by the servant girls in our fu. It's not sold outside. Xining smiled as she replied. So that's how it is. No wonder I, who is invincible in the capital, haven't eaten it before. Yu Tianyue suddenly realized. She didn't have time to speak and picked up another piece to eat. Qi Lingyi put down the pastry in her mouth, her eyes full of inquiry. I've heard before that His Royal Highness has a few servant girls who are very skilled in various fields, including food, housing, and transportation. Xining was a little surprised. Miss Qi actually knows. That's true. They are very skilled. This servant also admires them. Chu Qingyan smiled faintly. This is called specialization in a field. As long as you concentrate on one area, you will achieve amazing results. Don't belittle yourself. You also have your own unique areas. Go back and work hard to settle accounts with me. Xining stuck out her tongue. Master wants to squeeze this servant's surplus labor again. You actually learned to ridicule me. Are you itching for a beating? She pretended to threaten. Xining immediately cooperated and softly said, This servant doesn't dare. Master, please spare me. This scene caused everyone to burst into laughter. Qi Lingyi said enviously, Big Sister Chu, your relationship is so good. When Chu Qingyan saw the envious gazes of Qi Lingyi and Xue Ling, she recalled the information that Xue Ling had given her. Although these 2 young ladies were born of the main wife, they still had a few brothers and sisters who were born of concubines in the residence. Their interactions with the servants were definitely not a simple master-servant relationship. There was definitely some hidden infighting within the inner courtyard. Unlike her, Xining, and Jasper, these people were all trained by her and were also her capable assistants. She suddenly felt that she was lucky not to have been born into such a complicated family. We grew up together, so our relationship is naturally deeper. Right, why are the 2 of you sitting in the same carriage? Chu Qingyan was curious. Yu Tianyue said quickly, It's like this. Because the journey to the National Temple is a bit long, I was afraid that the journey would be boring, so I asked Big Sister Lingyi's mother to let her sit with me. So we traveled together. Chu Qingyan nodded, indicating that she understood. At this moment, Yu Tianyue wiped her face and complained, It's so hot today. I hope it will rain after praying for blessings to lower the temperature. Little Sister Tianyue, wipe carefully. Your makeup is almost ruined. Qi Lingyi turned and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Chu Qingyan turned to look in the direction of the voice and saw Yu Tianyue's face with patches of red and white, like a little kitten. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. Then what should I do? The weather is too hot. I want to wipe the sweat off my face. Yu Tianyue had a long face. When she heard Chu Qingyan's laughter, she couldn't help but turn to look at her with grievance. She just happened to see that there wasn't a single trace of sweat on her sparkling and translucent skin, as if she had discovered a new continent. Big Sister Chu, why does your face look like it just peeled off an eggshell? It's so smooth and translucent, so enviable. At the same time, these words attracted Qi Lingyi. She discovered that not only Chu Qingyan, but even her two servant girls' makeup was more delicate than the young ladies'. It felt like they didn't have any makeup on, but they were very beautiful and exquisite. Chu Qingyan blinked and a light flashed in her eyes. She found a business opportunity. Maybe it's because the rouge and face powder I use is different from yours, so I can maintain the makeup on my face and not ruin it. What rouge and face powder? Big Sister Chu, please tell us. When it came to the topic of beauty and hair, the girls were very enthusiastic and interested. Yu Tianyue, with a little kitten's face, asked anxiously. It comes from Jiangnan, and the merchants gave it the name of Jiansheng. There are a lot of products in it, such as lipstick, face cream, moisturizer, foundation, and so on. The effect is very good. These products are very popular in Jiangnan, but maybe they haven't spread to the capital. Maybe if I tell you, you won't have much of an idea. How about this, since there's still some time before we set off, why don't you come to my carriage? I'll let someone touch up Tianyue's makeup, and you'll know the effect when you experience it yourself. Chu Qingyan's suggestion immediately received the response of the two young ladies, and they got off the carriage one after another. Chapter 1085. The people who had been paying attention to Chu Qingyan's situation were very surprised to see Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi running into her carriage. Qi Lingyi's father was the grand scribe, a famous pedantic old scholar. He only insisted on right or wrong and was very stubborn. Yu Tianyue's father was a military cavalry officer. He usually walked around the Sichuan emperor and was full of brute force. Both of them were neutral parties in the court and did not attach themselves to any prince. One was too stubborn and the other was too timid. Now that both of their daughters had coincidentally entered the future King of England's consort's carriage, this signal made people from the other parties somewhat unable to sit still. 1 spread to 10, and 10 to 100, and the surrounding people's gazes fell on Chu Qingyan's carriage. Of course, the people inside the carriage did not know what the people outside were thinking. At this time, Yu Tianyue was sighing, "Big Sister Chu, your carriage is so cool. It's like the difference between ice and fire. His Highness knows that my master is afraid of heat, so he had people put a lot of ice in the carriage. In addition, the design of our carriage is different from the ones on the market. It has a very big function, which is ventilation. Don't look at these curtains and pillows. They are made of ice silk and are very cool to the touch." Xining opened the small box and took out the products, explaining with a smile. Yu Tianyue's eyes were shining. She touched the curtains and said enviously, "His Royal Highness treats Big Sister Chu so well. He even thought of these details. People outside say that the King of England is unromantic and doesn't know how to be considerate. I think it's all a lie. Rumors can't be trusted." At the side, Qi Lingyi was looking at the carriage. When she heard Xining's words, she felt a strong sense of envy in her heart. It turned out that His Royal Highness was such a considerate person. She really hoped that she could replace Sister Chu and enjoy his thoughtfulness. Chu Qingyan was amused by Yu Tianyue's straightforward words, but she still expressed her own opinion. Actually, to judge a person's good or bad, you shouldn't just listen to rumors, but you should interact with him face to face. The rumors outside really don't match my highness. Yu Tianyue still wanted to say something, but Chu Qingyan raised her hand and said with a smile, "Little cat, you'd better deal with your face first. Otherwise, how will you face people when you go out later?" Only then did Yu Tianyue realize this. She immediately shut her mouth and looked at her anxiously. Everyone was amused by her appearance. Chu Qingyan waved her hand and asked Xining to come up and do her makeup again, After that, the two of them were attracted by the things that Xining took out. They felt that it was very strange, but it was very comfortable to use. Yu Tianyue kept asking questions, and Xining explained to her while doing her makeup. Yu Tianyue couldn't see the makeup process, so she could only feel that it was comfortable. Qi Lingyi, who was watching from the side, was more and more shocked by the changes on Yu Tianyue's face. At first, she would still talk to Yu Tianyue, but in the end, she was completely stunned. What's wrong? Is it very strange? After Xining finished doing her makeup, Yu Tianyue was about to take the mirror that Jasper handed over. When she saw her friend's expression, she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Look at the mirror yourself. Qi Lingyi widened her eyes. Yu Tianyue picked up the mirror uneasily. When the image in the mirror appeared clearly in front of her eyes, she couldn't help but raise her hand to touch her face. Looking at the woman with white teeth and red lips, she asked the person in front of her in a daze, "This person is really me?" "It's the real deal." Chu Qingyan smiled faintly. "It's so amazing. It's like I'm a different person. I can't believe I can be so beautiful." "Aw. Sister Lingyi, look, I've become prettier." Yu Tianyue was wild with joy. "You're already very pretty. These products are just the icing on the cake." Chu Qingyan looked at the cute and beautiful girl in front of her, and the corners of her eyes were tinged with a smile. "Thank you, Sister Chu," Yu Tianyue said gratefully. At this moment, Qi Lingyi said timidly, "Sister Chu, I also want to wear this makeup. Can I?" Chu Qingyan's face lit up. Of course. She couldn't ask for more. These two girls were definitely more popular than her in the capital city. With this makeup, they would definitely attract a lot of girls. Moreover, it would have the best effect of comparing the past to the present. They were practically free advertising models. Thus, Xining started to put on Qi Lingyi's makeup. At this moment, Yu Tianyue seemed to have thought of something after admiring it for a while. She immediately turned her head and pleaded, "Sister Chu, I also want to buy this product. Can I ask you to buy it for me?" Since this product came from Jiangnan and she had never seen the madams and girls in the capital city use it, it proved that this product had never appeared in the capital city before. It was in a girl's nature to love beauty, especially at this age. Now that she saw this product, it was as if she had seen a treasure. Her tone was pitiful, and her expression was yearning. It was as if she wouldn't leave if Chu Qingyan didn't agree to her request. These words were what Qi Lingyi was thinking. She couldn't help but look at Chu Qingyan. Chu Qingyan looked at the two eagerly looking girls in front of her. It was exactly what she wanted. She smiled and said, "You don't have to be anxious. I heard that the boss is planning to open a shop in the capital city that specializes in selling these products. Perhaps you'll hear about it when we come back from our fast." "That's great." Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi both smiled happily. Chu Qingyan smiled and took the two small bags from Xining. "These two bags were used for your makeup just now. It's enough for you to support your fast. When you come back, you can go to the shop and buy new ones." The two girls took the bags and were very grateful. After the two of them left in high spirits, Xining smiled and said, "I believe that it won't be long before many people know about the continuation of the product. These two young ladies should know a lot of people. They'll more or less attract a lot of customers for young Master Hua." Jasper evaluated objectively. "No matter how many people we can attract, it's always useful. Moreover, these two girls look quite likable. I've made two good friends. It seems that this fast trip is something to look forward to." Chu Qingyan supported her chin and smiled slightly as she listened to the exclamations coming from the carriage next door. She didn't know what Empress Liang was dawdling about. She waited from early in the morning until almost noon before someone gave the order to set off. A large group of golden carriages drove out of the palace gate. After they were far away, a group of women's carriages followed one after another. Although they had waited for almost an entire morning, some inconceivable things had happened. For example, Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi had only been in Chu Qingyan's carriage for a while before they came down. Although they were still the same people, they were more pleasing to the eye than before. This made many people puzzled. They planned to find an opportunity to inquire about it when they entered the national temple. Perhaps Chu Qingyan didn't expect that because of this sudden idea, it would bring vitality to her and Hua Xiu's business. Chapter 1086. Everyone followed along as the 100 carriages headed towards the national temple in a grandiose procession. At this time, Empress Liang was smashing a cup in the carriage. The clothes just had to be ruined when Ben Gong was about to leave. "How did you do your job?" The palace maids immediately knelt down. One of the head palace maids said fearfully, "We servants also don't know." They were all properly stored in the cabinet. Last night, this servant even took them out to examine them carefully. "We didn't find any problems, so we also don't know why the problem occurred this morning." That's right, that's right. Your Highness, please don't be angry. We truly didn't find any problems. The palace maids agreed. You keep saying that you didn't find any problems, but you've delayed Ben Gong's departure until now. Ben Gong doesn't want to listen to your explanations right now. Luo Yun, have someone drag them away and interrogate them carefully. See who exactly did something to them. Empress Liang waved her hand coldly. The mouths of these people were covered and they were silently taken away from the carriage. When only Empress Liang and Luo Yun were left in the carriage, Luo Yun offered tea. Your Highness, please calm down. Don't get angry and harm your body. This matter is simply an extraordinary humiliation to Ben Gong. Ben Gong has always been punctual, but Ben Gong was delayed for so long because of this last-minute change of clothes. Ben Gong had originally wanted to use this opportunity to win over the hearts of the people. These womenfolk have been waiting outside for so long, so they definitely have resentment in their hearts. The gains simply don't make up for the losses. Empress Liang was so angry that she couldn't even drink the tea. Luo Yun was also a bit angry. Your Highness, who do you think did this? Aside from those people in the palace who want to see Ben Gong make a fool of, who else could it be? Empress Liang gave a humph, her expression so dark that it looked like water was about to drip from it. This servant feels that the person behind the scenes wants to delay your appearance so that these womenfolk will be dissatisfied with you. This will make people think that your fasting this time was just an act. This move is extremely frightening. Luo Yun was startled awake as she thought of this. She hastily said. Empress Liang coldly said, "This empress has already thought of this point. It's nothing more than seeing how His Majesty dotes on this empress so much this time, so she's jealous and hateful. Once we arrive at the imperial temple, keep a close eye on them and see if you can make these bitches spit out who bought them. Also, when we're resting halfway, get someone to send some cooling fruits to the women to make up for it." Luo Yun nodded. This servant understands. Empress Liang took the teacup, took a sip, and relaxed her expression. Then, she asked indifferently, "Did anything happen outside the palace just now?" "Nothing much happened. I just heard that many people are hostile towards Miss Chu. It's just that Miss Chu didn't pay attention to them." Luo Yun saw that her master was in a good mood and immediately reported. This Chu Qingyan stole the limelight at the palace banquet, causing these arrogant noblewomen and young misses of the capital to harbor ill feelings towards her. They'll definitely find her unpleasant to the eye. However, this is also good. Let her suffer a bit and temper her temper. This way, it'll be easier for me to control her in the future. Send someone to keep an eye on Chu Qingyan. If there's any movement, report it to me. That's right, remember to tell Jing Girl and Bing Girl to do their best to show off their talents at this time's fasting. This will pave the way for them in the future. Empress Liang lifted her brows as she spoke unhurriedly. I've already sent a few palace mama to the two young misses. When the time comes, they'll give them more pointers. This servant will also send someone to remind the two young misses. Luo Yun bowed. Very good. After speaking, Empress Liang slowly closed her eyes to rest. That's right, Your Highness. Hong Yi sent a message yesterday. Luo Yun said in a small voice. Empress Liang opened her eyes and a light flashed through them. This time, Chu Qingyan isn't in the Prince Fu. Have her act according to the circumstances. Don't miss this great opportunity. This servant will give her a reply right away. Luo Yun understood and quietly withdrew. Empress Liang's lips hooked. This son wanted to fight with his mother. No matter what, he wouldn't be able to win. Sooner or later, he would have to listen to her obediently. While the capital was in full swing preparing for the fasting, in Sichuan town, there was another group of people that were slowly and inconspicuously heading towards the capital. With Xiao Ho's 3 chances, Pang Zhijing felt that she had a golden medal that could allow her to escape anytime and anywhere. No one would dare to stop her. Thus, she wasn't in a hurry and quietly waited in the carriage. In any case, she was eating and drinking well. When the time came, she would find a chance to escape. Pang Zhijing finally stopped for a few days, allowing the group of envoys who had been on tenterhooks the entire time to sleep peacefully. During a meeting, Envoy Tori had a whole new level of respect for Xiao Ho. He asked him what method he had used to intimidate this clever princess. Even the crown prince couldn't subdue her. Xiao Ho revealed a mysterious smile and didn't give an answer. He only told them that they didn't need to keep a close watch on her for the time being. If anything happened, they didn't need to be surprised. He was fully in charge. With the crown prince's previous instructions, Tori was relieved to entrust the princess to him. That night, Pang Zhijing clearly felt that there weren't many people watching her. Thus, she took the opportunity to knock out a maid and changed into her clothes before lying down in the carriage. Then, she pretended to be a maid and got off the carriage. She openly walked on the road illuminated by the firelight. Because she had previously told all the maids to learn how to walk with her sick leg, otherwise she would be unhappy, everyone was used to it and didn't pay much attention to it. Thus, she used the excuse of getting water as an excuse to drag her sick leg and run away. But when she entered the forest, she slowly restrained her dancing and slowed down until she couldn't take another step. Because she saw a person standing in the darkness. When that person slowly walked out of the darkness and revealed his true face, Pang Zhijing's eyes twitched. You, princess, this is the first time. Xiao Ho smiled gently. It was indescribably gentle, but in Pang Zhijing's eyes, it was like a demon in the dark night. She couldn't help but shiver. Then can I still run now? She suddenly wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. These people's IQ was higher than hers. Sooner or later, she would be eaten up by them. Please. Xiao Ho politely extended a hand. Pang Zhijing looked at him and calmly said, "Give me 2 hours, then come and find me." Okay. Xiao Ho nodded without hesitation. Pang Zhijing pursed her lips and brushed past him, not stopping at all. She must run as far away as possible, and not have anything to do with these people anymore. Xiao Ho smelled the faint fragrance of flowers in the air. He slowly turned around and watched the limping and slender figure gradually disappear into the bushes. A doubt floated in his heart. What was supporting such a weak woman like her to keep struggling and have the courage to clamor? Perhaps he would have to wait until he caught her before he could solve this mystery. Chapter 1087. Even though she had Xiao Ho's promise, Pang Zhijing still did not dare to be careless. She dragged her sick leg and limped as she looked for a place to hide. The injury on her leg should have healed long ago, but because she kept getting injured while she was running away, in addition to the poor medical skills of the ancient times, the medicine that she applied did not work at all. She felt that the injury on her leg seemed to have worsened. So, she could not run very far in 2 hours. So, she decided to hide. Previously, Xiao Ho told her not to choose to hide in a tree, but she insisted on doing so. She used the other party's mentality, thinking that she would not fall in the same place again. She wanted to challenge his mentality. This was called all is fair in war. So, when she reached a place where she could not see Xiao Ho, she found a large tree that looked like it was full of leaves and climbed up quickly. Then, she swung her legs and panted heavily to rest. She did not die of exhaustion along the way. But she did not dare to be careless. She kept an eye on the time and very soon, an hour had passed in torment. It's here. She heard the sound of a large group of people carrying out a carpet search. So, she held her breath and held onto the tree trunk with one hand and covered her nose and mouth with the other. She restrained herself and did not allow herself to make any noise. And at this moment, the group of people had already neared her position. We didn't see anyone. Search in front. The wind carried the sound of leaves rustling and the soldiers' discussion. Seeing that these people were about to pass under her tree, her heart jumped to her throat. But these people did not leave so quickly. Instead, they unexpectedly stopped. Because at this moment, Xiaohou suddenly stopped everyone and looked towards Pang Zhijing's position. Pang Zhijing nervously watched their actions through the gaps of the leaves. At this moment, when she saw Xiaohou's gaze, she immediately shrunk her neck. However, she felt that his action meant that he had already discovered her. Princess, this prince had once advised you not to hide in the tree. Unfortunately, Princess does not listen to good advice. His gentle eyes had a faint smile, but this smile did not reach his eyes. Pang Zhijing still wanted to put up a final struggle, but unfortunately, the other party's gaze had already locked onto her. Even the leaves could not hide her figure. In the end, she could only accept her fate. You're good. You were able to discover me like this. I thought the most dangerous place was the safest place, Pang Zhijing said, her voice full of regret. Thank you for your praise, Princess, Xiaohou said without showing any emotion. Pang Zhijing pursed her lips and stretched out her arms to the person standing not far away. I can't go down. Xiaohou raised his eyebrows, indifferent to her words. Ben Wang believes that since Princess can go up, you should be able to come down. I also want to go down myself, but look at my feet. Do I look like I can go down? She lifted her swollen pig trotters and felt very depressed. If it weren't for the inconvenience of her legs, she wouldn't have been caught so easily. Xiaohou looked at her feet. Even her shoes couldn't hide the bruises, but this didn't change his mind. He waved his hand and signaled for the guards beside him to go forward and help her. He turned around and wanted to leave. Hey, if you don't want to escort a crippled princess to the capital and suffer the scolding of your emperor, then you can just leave me here. When Pang Zhijing saw him being so cold-blooded, she couldn't help shouting out. Xiaohou stopped in his tracks and turned around. The smile in his eyes had completely disappeared. Princess is right. Then it's better if this prince does it himself. After saying that, the guards immediately retreated and made room for him. When Xiaohou stood under the tree, he looked up and saw a pink-blue figure sitting on the branch. The sunlight shined down and he could only see her stubborn and bright eyes. He narrowed his eyes and his body fell down like a butterfly. Very quickly, a soft body fell into his arms. The fragrance filled his nose and he was suddenly a bit stunned. Pang Zhijing still had some lingering fear. Actually, she was a bit afraid of heights, but in order to escape, she had no other choice. Xiaohou had saved her once and caught her again, so in her heart, Xiaohou was her enemy, but he was also someone who had enough strength to ensure her safety. When Xiaohou came back to his senses, he looked at the person patting his chest and coldly said, Princess, this prince doesn't like being threatened by others. Same to you. Pang Zhijing replied. Xiaohou did not hesitate and put her down on the ground. You still have one last chance. Xiaohou reminded her with a fake smile. Pang Zhijing was stunned and then glared at him in displeasure. I don't need you to remind me, I know. After saying that, she turned to leave. But before she could take 2 steps, she suddenly turned back. Xiaohou raised his brows as he looked at her in confusion. What kind of trick did she want to play? Pang Zhijing stretched out her hand and pursed her lips. I'm hungry. Give me some dry food first. If there's a chance to meet, I'll return it to you. Xiaohou was a bit surprised, but looking at the embarrassed girl in front of him who was red from ears to neck, his heart trembled. Suddenly, he felt his mood turn for the better. He gave a low laugh, like a spring breeze that melted the snow. Pang Zhijing heard his laughter and flew into a rage out of humiliation. If you don't want to give, then don't give. Why are you laughing at me? So annoying. She turned to leave, but she heard the person behind her with a smile. Come, prepare some dry food for the princess to escape. At this time, a guard handed over a small package. Pang Zhijing did not even open it and directly carried it on her back. She tightened the straps and slightly lowered her head. With her back facing him, she seriously said, "Give me a day's time. If you find me again, I won't run anymore." Xiao Ho's gaze focused on that slender back. Although she was petite and weak, her voice made him feel unexpectedly strong. Okay. He was silent for a moment before finally responding. Okay, then let's not meet again. Pang Zhijing smiled and turned to give him a brilliant smile. Then, she waved her hand with all her might and finally limped into the flowers. Let's not meet again. After waiting for her to leave, Xiao Ho muttered her words and lightly sneered. You're really confident. Lord, this southern blue princess is full of tricks. Do we need to send people to follow her and capture her when the time limit is up? Chai Xingyu looked in the direction where she disappeared and suggested. Ever since the Prince of Nansung handed her over to Lord, the southern blue envoys no longer cared about the princess. They even seemed to be gloating over Lord's misfortune and wanted to see him suffer. If the princess really ran away, how would he explain it to his superiors? Xiao Ho clasped his hands behind his back. His voice was as gentle as usual. Since this prince dares to make this bet, this prince naturally has his own plans. In a while, bring the southern blue envoys and leave in the direction of the capital. There's no need to wait for us. Chai Xingyu nodded. This subordinate obeys. Chapter 1088. The Fu of the King of England. Xiao Su and Lin Fengyi returned and the two sat down in the study. You are so assured to let your little Princess Fei face those demons and monsters? Lin Fengyi put down the teacup, his tone curious and teasing. Xiao Su frowned, his voice faint. She is not a child, she can handle it herself. Is that so? You are holding the book upside down. Lin Fengyi, kindly, reminded. Xiao Su stilled and looked down at the book in his hand. His eyes flashed and he casually put it on the table. Lin Fengyi couldn't help but laugh. It seems that the famous god of war is not always calm. Once it has to do with your little Princess Fei, you are not so rational. Xiao Su glanced coolly at him. You talk a lot today. You can't blame me. It is rare to see you act strangely. Of course, I have to appreciate it. Otherwise, there won't be another opportunity like this. Lin Fengyi waved the fan in his hand and said with a smile. Xiao Su didn't plan to pay attention to him. But the other party didn't seem to care about what he was thinking at the moment. His gloating was gone, and he suddenly said seriously, Actually, you don't have to focus so much on the defense drill this time. Your mother proposed this fast because she wants you to take the initiative to apply to His Majesty for the position of protector. I believe that as long as you ask, His Majesty won't refuse. This way, you can accompany your little Princess Fei and see her yearning. I don't want to achieve Muhu's goal. This way, her ambition will grow. She will think that I am compromising with her or agreeing with her actions. If she does something in the future, I am afraid that I will not be able to stop her. Xiao Su looked up and said in a serious tone, Also, I believe in Ayan. She is not a flower grown in a greenhouse and can withstand storms. Lin Fengyi was slightly surprised. You want to use this opportunity to let her comprehend or grow? He felt that the things that Chu Qingyan had experienced in the past few years were difficult for most people of the same age. In his view, she was already outstanding and powerful enough. Was his good friend still not satisfied? Xiao Su smiled faintly. Yan is very smart, but she has been by my side for so many years. She has only faced those open and covert fights, but she is still not good enough when it comes to the subtle fights between women. This time, I hope that she can grow up so that she can truly take charge of things on her own. Lin Fengyi didn't think that he was considering this and couldn't help but ask, then you are willing? So what if I am unwilling? Only when I'm not by her side will she forget her laziness. Only when she has no one to rely on will she face it seriously. Xiao Su frowned. Although in the eyes of outsiders, the little fellow was brave and resourceful, as long as he was around, she would have a heart of dependence, unable to stimulate her inner potential. Although she felt that she was working very hard, in fact, she had not used all her strength. This time, he wanted to see if this trip could really stimulate her potential. Xiao Ran, sometimes I can't help but admire you. At a time like this, you can still analyze things so rationally and use such a method to push the people you care about to face. Lin Fengyi was slightly surprised and couldn't help but sigh. Xiao Su smiled bitterly. Actually, he was very reluctant, but he had to do this. Fengyi, I am not a heartless person. I will not force Ian to do anything. It is just because of our current situation. If we are not strong enough, it is easy for others to plot against us, get hurt, suffer, or even lose our lives. Sometimes, I would rather be like you, an ordinary person. Lin Fengyi shook his head and laughed. Like me, an orphan. Actually, sometimes, I wish I was you. Xiao Su laughed self-deprecatingly. Lin Fengyi's expression slowly changed. He sighed softly. Xiao Su, even if you are an ordinary person, you cannot hide the light on your body. Some people are destined to be extraordinary. This is fate. Your consolation is quite pleasing to the ear. Xiao Su smiled faintly. Lin Fengyi's mouth twitched, indicating that he was unwilling to say anything more to him. Chu Qingyan and the others walked out of the city gate and continued forward. They rested at the foot of the mountain and then went up the mountain path. This Hugua temple was built on top of a mountain 30 li outside of the city. The scenery there was pleasant, and the vegetation was flourishing. Thus, Chu Qingyan sat in the carriage and lifted the curtain to admire the scenery. Because the sun was very bright, the other carriages did not have as many ice cubes as Chu Qingyan's carriage. Thus, most of them opened the curtains for ventilation. However, the air was hot and everyone had no choice but to stay cooped up in the carriage. His Highness is still the most considerate. He had people prepare everything. Right now, we are here to play. Xining sighed as she fanned herself. There's no need to mention how good His Highness is to master. Bai Yu also spoke for the first time. Chu Qingyan was amused. You two little brats have been bribed. Master, come, have a bowl of iced plum soup. Xining obediently presented the bowl. Chu Qingyan received it and drank a mouthful of it happily. Big Ice Cube was afraid that she would not be well taken care of on the road, so he had the residents prepare everything. From the ice cubes in the carriage to the desserts and soup. She had to admit that Big Ice Cube was very meticulous. How much longer until we reach? Chu Qingyan asked casually. According to the journey, we are already halfway up the mountain. If there are no accidents, we will reach the temple in another 2 hours. Jasper calculated and replied. Right at this moment, a familiar voice sounded. Qingyan, you are inside, right? I am Xiao Ran. The youth's clear voice could be heard clearly. Chu Qingyan lifted the curtain and saw the jade-faced youth on the horse. It's you. Aren't you in charge of security? Why do you have time to come here? There were too many things on the road and I didn't have time to talk to you. I just happened to be patrolling your position, so I came to greet you. Xiao Ran wiped the sweat on his face. He looked a little unnatural as he spoke and felt that he looked quite disheveled. Chu Qingyan nodded. Seeing that his fair face was slightly red from the sun, she said, I know you are busy, so you don't have to delay with me. Then she blinked. Oh right, don't be in a hurry to leave. I have soup here. Drink a bowl to cool down before you leave. With that, she asked Xining to ladle a bowl for him. Xiao Ran gave a silly smile and took it without hesitation. He raised his head and drank it. He felt that it tasted better than anything he had drunk before. His heart was filled with sweetness. Then he left with a reluctant look. Chu Qingyan saw that he drank in such a hurry and felt that he was really a child. She shook her head and retracted her gaze. Just as she was about to put down the curtain, she felt that someone was looking at her. She immediately turned to look, but when she looked, she could no longer see anyone. She muttered to herself and finally put down the curtain. Yao Ruoying lifted the curtain again and looked in Chu Qingyan's direction. Her lips slowly curved. Chapter 1089. The melons and fruits that the Empress sent over, in the hands of that Chu Qingyan, are all crooked melons and dates. I don't know who did something to them, but they are hard to swallow. Meng Shishu's maid, Xing'er, said gloatingly in her ear. Meng Shishu was eating a piece of melon. Hearing this, she glanced at the plate in front of her and gave a contemptuous smile. It seems that the Empress does not like this daughter-in-law that much. That's right. I heard that it's because Chu Qingyan's family background is not prominent and cannot be of any help to His Royal Highness. Therefore, the Empress does not like this Chu Qingyan who does not have a high background. Xing'er flapped her fan and eagerly relayed the news she had heard. Meng Shishu thought of something after hearing this. She immediately sat up straight and put down the melon in her hand. Her eyes were shining. You mean, even though there is an engagement, but Chu Qingyan may not be able to enter the King of England's palace? As long as she is not married to His Royal Highness. Xing'er nodded. Mistress is right. Therefore, you do not need to worry too much. Whether or not Chu Qingyan can become the consort of the King of England is still unknown. Meng Shishu tapped her finger on the little table and thought, then if that's the case, I should show my face more in front of the Empress. Compared to Chu Qingyan, my status is more presentable. Even mother said that I should take this opportunity to get closer to the Empress. No matter if it is for myself or father, it will be beneficial. Thinking of this, she clapped her hands and looked at the maid in front of her with bright eyes. Xing'er, I'll give you a task. When you enter the temple this time, no matter what, you have to find out what the Empress likes and dislikes. Build a good relationship with the maids beside the Empress. If you need money, you don't need to worry about it. Xing'er immediately agreed, I will definitely not disappoint you. Only then did Meng Shishu feel at ease to enjoy the cold fruits. In the carriage of the Minister of Right's family, Jing Mingzhu was sitting in the same carriage as her mother. At this moment, she was complaining angrily, Mother, Chu Qingyan is already set to be the consort of the King of England. Why did she still seduce the fourth prince? Just now, she heard the servants say that Xiao Ran deliberately rode his horse to the front of Chu Qingyan's carriage to talk. The way they talked was very intimate. Suddenly, she was full of anger. That Chu Qingyan, as your mother, looks like a vixen at first glance. Madame Jing raised her eyebrows and sneered. Jing Mingzhu's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. Then do you think it's true that Chu Qingyan and His Highness are really, as an unmarried girl, she still didn't dare to say it out loud. Madame Jing knew what she wanted to say. Although Chu Qingyan hasn't seen much of the world, she isn't stupid. She was young before and didn't understand the struggles of the court. Now that the fourth prince is favored by the emperor and the King of England has been titled as the Lord, she can see that the emperor favors the fourth prince more. So, she has a devious idea and wants to rely on both sides. When the time comes, it will be easier for her to choose. Mother, do you think His Highness will really like this vixen? Jing Mingzhu suddenly became worried. Her fingers twisted her handkerchief and her heart was very nervous. Don't worry. Even if His Highness is interested in Chu Qingyan, consort you won't allow it. Don't forget that Madame Fu and your mother have been close friends for many years. What she says is probably what consort you wants. Besides, she was raised outside. How can she be as beautiful and smart as our Mingzhu? As long as you show your face in front of His Highness more often, I guarantee that he will have a deep impression of you. When the time comes, when His Majesty has the idea of choosing a consort for His Highness, consort, you will mention it. Then, won't your marriage be set in stone? Madame Jing patted her daughter's hand. The wrinkles on her face were almost like chrysanthemums. With her mother's words, Jing Mingzhu was both shy and confident. Mother, what are you talking about? Your daughter doesn't understand a single word. Knowing that her daughter had grown up and knew how to be shy, Madame Jing smiled until her eyes almost narrowed into slits. Okay. Mother won't say any more. Jing Mingzhu was bashful, but she also had a plan in her heart. Even if Chu Qingyan's identity was there and she didn't have the chance to marry Xiao Ran, she wouldn't let her have an easy time. Since she could remember, she had never lost to anyone. This Chu Qingyan was her stumbling block. She had to find a chance to kill her spirit. Chu Qingyan sat in the carriage and chatted with her two beautiful maids. Her days were free and leisurely. She didn't know how many people in this group were jealous of her and how much influence they would have on her in the near future. She also didn't know what surprises or shocks were waiting for her in the temple. In fact, with her intuition as a woman, she could vaguely feel that this road of fasting wouldn't be smooth. But in her view, she didn't like to worry about the unknown. She liked to have joy today and worry tomorrow. The carriage moved slowly on the mountain road, but they could already see the corner of the temple at the top of the mountain. In the mountain forest, the trees were dense and the environment was quiet and secluded. Everyone seemed to have entered a cool and refreshing world from the hot weather. All the pores on their bodies opened up comfortably. Everyone opened the curtains one after another and faced the magnificent temple not far away. They couldn't help but reveal joyful smiles. They finally reached their destination. Hugua Temple had already received the news and had come out early to greet them. Empress Liang got off the carriage. The other concubines and womenfolk also came out. Old Na Yuan Kong greets the Empress. An old man wearing a kasaya bowed to Empress Liang with a benevolent expression. Empress Liang returned the greeting, "Great Master need not be so courteous. This Empress came here as a woman of faith to pray for the blessings of the country and pray for rain for the common people. Thus, Great Master can treat us as ordinary believers. Ba, Empress is considerate." Great Master Yuan Kong put his hands together to return the greeting. Empress Liang nodded with a slight smile. At this time, Great Master Yuan Kong said to everyone, "Female benefactors, Old Na has already prepared vegetarian dishes in the side rooms for everyone. Please come in." "Many thanks, Great Master." Everyone bowed. Chu Qingyan followed behind the crowd and looked around curiously. At this moment, she saw that Xiao Ran had already dismounted and was walking towards the young man who had arrived at the temple earlier to make arrangements. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't help but take a few more glances. She stared at the young man whose back was facing her, and she suddenly had a strange feeling in her heart. But at this time, everyone slowly surged into the temple under the guidance of the monks on both sides. She had to look away and follow the crowd. When everyone had entered the temple, the person who had been talking to Xiao Ran slowly turned around and looked in the direction that Chu Qingyan had left. His phoenix eyes rose and he gave an enigmatic smile.